The ancients did not say your words have power. They said your words are power. A world is created, and a world is undone on a single breath. With sound, formless energy is given shape, intention is made manifest, and realities are woven into being. This is not a metaphor. It is a law of the universe, as real as gravity, as constant as the rising sun. This power does not reside in a book or in a secret teaching. It resides in you. It is you. So why then do you feel so voiceless? Why do your words, which are said to hold the power of creation, so often feel like stones dropped into a bottomless well, returning no echo? You have tried to be heard. You have spoken with clarity, with logic, with carefully chosen arguments. You have spoken with the raw fire of passion, with the quiet desperation of your deepest needs. And you have watched your words dissipate into the air, misunderstood, or worse, simply ignored. The world seems to be a cacophony of noise, a relentless shouting match where everyone is broadcasting and no one is receiving. You feel yourself growing tired of the performance, tired of trying to find the right words, the right tone, the right mask to wear, just to feel a flicker of connection. And perhaps you have started to notice that the most difficult, most exhausting conversation of all is the one that happens within the confines of your own mind. The inner critic, the inner judge, the endless loop of stories about who you are, what you lack, and what you must do to be worthy. You are beginning to suspect that until this inner conversation finds its peace, every outer conversation will be a reflection of that same war. This journey we are about to take is not about learning a new set of rules for communication. It is not about mastering techniques to win an argument or to persuade others to your point of view. That is the way of the ego. That is the path of more noise, number. This is a journey of unlearning. It is a journey of remembering. We will walk a quieter path, back to the source from which all true influence flows. We will explore the profound energy of silence, the alchemy of intention, and the vibrational truth that resonates beneath every word you speak. This is not a journey to become a better speaker. It is a journey to become a bridge between your own soul and the soul of another, a bridge between the chaos you see and the harmony you know is possible. The first step is not to speak, but to listen to the silence that is waiting for you, right now, just beneath the noise. We begin, not with a word, but with the space that holds all words. We begin with silence. You have been taught your entire life that your power lies in what you say. Your intellect, your wit, your ability to articulate a persuasive argument, your skill in filling a void with sound so that others may see you and hear you and validate you. You have been taught that silence is weakness, an admission of defeat, an uncomfortable emptiness that must be vanquished with noise. This is the first and most fundamental illusion you must unlearn. True influence, the kind that alters the very energy of a room, the kind that can soothe a tormented heart or inspire a monumental shift in perspective, is not born from the noise you make. It is drawn from the deep, vast, unshakable silence that you are. Imagine your consciousness is a deep well. For years, perhaps your entire life, you have been living at the very surface of this well. Up here, the water is turbulent. Every passing wind of circumstance, every comment from another person, every fearful projection about the future stirs the surface into a murky, chaotic churn. The sediment of past hurts, of conditioned beliefs, of other people's opinions, is constantly being agitated. And when you need to speak, when you need to connect or influence, you desperately scoop from this muddy surface. The words that come out are thick with this sediment. They are reactive, defensive, anxious. They carry the frantic energy of the churning surface. They are words born of noise, and they only create more noise in the world and in the hearts of those who hear them. They do not quench a true thirst. They do not cleanse a wound. They simply spread the mud. This noise is not just the sound you hear with your ears. It is the incessant chatter of the mind, the voice that never, ever stops. It is the inner committee meeting that is permanently in session, debating every move, rehearsing every conversation, replaying every mistake. It is the low-grade hum of anxiety that has become so constant you mistake it for the feeling of being alive. Feel it in your body right now. The slight tension in your jaw, the subtle clenching in your stomach, the shallow rhythm of your breath. This is the physical residue of the noise. This is the state from which most communication originates. Is it any wonder, then, that our interactions so often feel like collisions rather than connections? Is it any wonder that we leave conversations feeling more depleted than nourished? We are offering each other muddy water, all the while dying of thirst. Now, I invite you to do something radical. Do not try to stop the noise. Do not fight with the chatter. That is just more churning, more conflict. Simply let it be. Allow the winds on the surface of the well to blow. Allow the chatter to chatter. And for a moment, bring your attention away from the surface and begin a gentle descent. Go deeper. Beneath the turbulent surface of your thoughts, there is a place of profound stillness. It has always been there. It is there right now, waiting. As you descend, the water becomes clearer. The sediment, no longer agitated by your frantic attention, begins to slowly, gracefully settle. Take a breath, not a forced breath, but an observed one. Feel the air enter your body, cool and clean, and feel it leave, warm and released. Do not try to find the silence. You cannot find what you already are. You can only become aware of it. Feel the weight of your body in the chair, on the floor. A simple, undeniable, silent presence. Feel the subtle field of energy in your hands, a quiet aliveness that needs no words to announce itself. This is the beginning of the descent. The noise of the mind may still be there, but it is now like the sound of distant traffic. You are no longer in the middle of the road, being hit by every thought. You are in a quiet room, observing it from a window. This is your inner sanctuary. This is the source. When you spend time in this inner silence, something miraculous begins to happen. The sediment settles completely. The water of the well becomes perfectly clear, perfectly still. Down here, at the bottom of the well, you can see everything. You can see the nature of your own thoughts without being swept away by them. You can feel the truth of a situation without the distortion of your fears. This is a place of profound power, not an aggressive, dominating power, but the silent, immense power of a mountain. The mountain does not need to shout to announce its presence. Its power is in its stillness, its rootedness, its sheer, unshakable being. From this place, communication is transformed. When the time comes to speak, you are no longer scooping muddy water from the turbulent surface. You are drawing pure, clean, life-giving water from the silent depths. The words that arise are different. They have a different quality, a different resonance, a different weight. They are fewer, perhaps. They are simpler. They are not laced with the neediness of the ego, the need to be right, the need to impress, the need to defend. They arise from a place of being, not from a place of doing. A word spoken from silence has the power to cut through another person's noise. It does not collide with their defenses, it bypasses them. It speaks directly to the silent well within them, the place in them that recognizes the truth because it is of the same substance. Have you ever been in the presence of someone who doesn't say much, but when they do speak, everyone listens? Their words seem to land in the very center of your being. This is not a technique they have learned. It is the state from which they are speaking. They are speaking from the bottom of their well. They are offering you a drink of clear water, and your soul, parched from the noise of the world, receives it with gratitude. This is not a mystical state reserved for monks in a monastery. This is your birthright. It is the most natural state of your being. You have simply forgotten. The work, then, is not to add anything to yourself. It is not to learn clever phrases or body language tricks. The work is to subtract, to gently, patiently remove your attention from the noise, to cease the constant stirring of the well. You can begin now. in the middle of a busy day, take 30 seconds. Close your eyes, or simply lower your gaze. Feel one breath. Feel the silent aliveness in your hands. That's it. You have touched the source. The more you visit this place, the more you will learn to live from it. The more the sediment will settle, and the clearer your inner well will become. This is the foundation. Before you learn what to say, or how to say it, you must find the place from which to speak. You must find your own silence, because a word spoken from noise can only create more noise. But a word spoken from silence, a word spoken from that deep, clear, knowing presence within you, that word can change a world. But be mindful. This clear water is potent. The power that arises from this silence is immense, and like any power, it can be used to build or to destroy. Once you have found this source, a new responsibility emerges, the responsibility of intention. What is the purpose of the water you now draw? Is it to heal, or is it to harm? Is it to build a bridge, or is it to carve a canyon? We have found the source. Now, we must learn the nature of the vessel that will carry it. You have found the source. You have descended past the noisy, turbulent surface of the mind and tasted the clear, silent water of being. This is the single greatest step. But now, a new awareness is required, for the power that resides in this water is immense. It is pure potential, and pure potential, when brought into the world of form, must pass through a channel. That channel is your intention. The quality of your intention determines the quality of the world you create with your words. A single drop of this clear water, offered with an intention of love, can make a desert bloom. That same drop, offered with an intention of control or separation, can freeze a heart. Therefore, the next question on this journey is not what you will say, but why. From what place within you does the impulse to speak arise? Every time you open your mouth to communicate, you are performing a sacred act of building. You are taking the invisible energy of your intention and giving it form through your words. And with these words, you are either building a bridge or you are building a wall. There is no third option. Let us first speak of the wall. The wall is the default architecture of the ego. Its prime directive is survival, and its primary strategy is separation. The wall is built of the bricks of fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being judged, fear of being wrong, fear of being vulnerable. Look at the bricks it uses. The brick of blame, which seeks to hurl responsibility onto the other side. The brick of justification, which desperately tries to prove its own righteousness. The bricks of sarcasm and criticism, which are sharp, cold stones, designed to keep others at a distance. The heavy brick of being right, which creates a fortress so high that no new light can get in. Recall a time you were building a wall. You may have called it having a discussion, or making your point, or defending yourself. But feel it in your body. Remember the sensation, a tightening in your throat, a shallowness of breath, a clenching in your stomach or your fists, a fire in your chest that feels hot but not warm. This is the physiological signature of a wall. It is the feeling of contraction, of armoring, of closing. When you speak from behind this wall, your words are projectiles. They are launched over the top, designed to have an impact, to win territory, to push the other person back. And even if you win the argument, what is your prize? You are the king of a tiny, isolated fortress, completely alone. The silence that follows such a victory is not the nourishing silence of the well. It is the desolate silence of disconnection. You have successfully protected yourself from the very thing your soul craves. True, heartfelt connection. Now, let us speak of the bridge. The bridge is the architecture of the soul. Its prime directive is connection, and its primary strategy is openness. The bridge is built of the bricks of love, not a sentimental, conditional love, but the unconditional love that recognizes itself in the other. Look at the bricks it uses. The brick of the I statement, I feel hurt, instead of you hurt me. It takes ownership of its own experience. The brick of genuine curiosity. Can you help me understand your perspective? Instead of, how can you possibly think that? It invites, it does not attack. The bricks of validation and empathy, which say, I hear how painful that must be for you, acknowledging the other's reality without having to abandon your own. And the keystone of the entire bridge, the most courageous brick of all, vulnerability, the willingness to be seen without armor. Recall a time you were building a bridge. Perhaps you were comforting a friend, or offering a heartfelt apology, or sharing a dream with someone you trust. Remember the sensation in your body, an openness in your chest, a warmth that radiates outward, a slow, deep rhythm of breath, a feeling of relaxation in your shoulders and your jaw. This is the physiological signature of a bridge. It is the feeling of expansion, of flow, of opening. When you speak from this place, your words are not projectiles. They are invitations. They are offerings. They are threads of light that you gently cast across the space between you, hoping they will be received. Building a bridge feels risky. It is the opposite of the ego's obsession with safety. To lay the first brick of a bridge is to make yourself vulnerable. The other person may not walk across it. They may even throw a stone at your outstretched hand. This is why we must first be so deeply rooted in our own inner silence. When you are drawing from the infinite well of your own being, you are not dependent on the other person's reaction for your sense of worth or safety. You can offer the bridge for the sake of the offering itself. The act of building the bridge is its own reward, because it aligns you with the deepest truth of your soul, that you are here to connect. The choice between the wall and the bridge is made in an instant, and it is made 1,000 times a day. It is made when your partner says something that triggers you. The reactive mind immediately grabs a brick for the wall. But if you can create a single moment of pausia, single breath drawn from the silent well, you can make a different choice. You can choose consciously to lay the first brick of a bridge instead. You can say, that's interesting that I feel so defensive right now. I wonder what's underneath that. You have just built a bridge back to yourself, and in doing so, you make it possible to build one towards them. Your body is your most honest guide in this. It does not know how to lie about your intention. You can say all the right words, you can use the perfect therapeutic language, but if your body is in a state of contraction, you are building a wall. The other person's nervous system will feel the wall, even if their conscious mind is fooled by your words. They will feel the subtle lack of safety, the energetic pushback. This is why so many conversations, even when they seem polite, feel so empty and dissatisfying. They are exchanges between two well-defended fortresses. The practice, then, is to become exquisitely aware of the intention behind your impulse to speak. Before the words form, ask yourself this simple question: am I trying to connect, or am I trying to be right? Am I trying to open a space, or am I trying to defend one? Am I building a bridge, or am I building a wall? Your body will give you the honest answer. Listen to it. Trust it. You now have the clear water from the silent well. You now understand that your intention determines the energetic structure of your communication. You have chosen, in this moment, to be a bridge builder. You have the desire to connect, to understand, to create a shared space. But a bridge, by its very nature, must have two anchor points. It must connect your shore to their shore. To build a bridge that is stable, a bridge that can actually bear the weight of a true connection, you must first understand the landscape of the other side. You must know where their ground is solid, where their rivers flow, where their valleys lie. And to gain that sacred knowledge, you must put down your tools for a moment. You must cease all building. You must simply stand at the edge of your own shore, in the quiet presence of your own being, and learn to listen. You have chosen to be a bridge builder. You stand at the edge of your shore, rooted in the silent power of your own well, with a heart open to connection. Before you lies the space between you and another, and now you must learn the most misunderstood and therefore most powerful aspect of building that bridge. You must learn to listen. but not in the way you have been taught. From a young age, you were trained to listen with an agenda. In school, you listened to acquire facts for a test. In conversations, you listened to find the flaw in an argument, to formulate your counterpoint, to spot your turn to jump in and share your own, more interesting story. You listened to diagnose, to fix, to solve. This is not listening. This is mental acquisition. This is a form of subtle aggression, an intellectual hunting expedition, where you are merely tracking your prey, waiting for the moment to strike with your own brilliance. This is the listening of the ego, and it is utterly deaf to the music of another soul. It can only hear the noise of its own machinery. True listening, the kind of listening that builds bridges and heals wounds, is not an activity of the analytical mind. It is a state of total, surrendered presence. It is the dissolution of your own agenda. Imagine you are a finely crafted musical instrument, a tuning fork made of pure, resonant crystal. When another sound wave approaches, the tuning fork does not think, "Is this sound wave correct? Do I agree with its frequency? What is my opinion of this sound wave?" To do so would be absurd. The tuning fork does nothing. It simply is. And by virtue of its own clarity and emptiness, it begins to vibrate in perfect sympathy with the incoming frequency. It resonates. It does not judge the sound, it becomes the sound, for a moment. This is resonant listening. To listen in this way is to stop listening with your ears alone. Your ears pick up the words, which are merely the surface layer, the clumsy packaging for the real message. The real message is the energy, the frequency, that is being broadcast from the other person's being. The practice of resonant listening is to shift your attention from the packaging to the contents. It is to listen with the entirety of your energetic body. Let us try this now. Imagine someone is speaking to you. They are not a friend or an enemy. They are simply a fellow being, expressing their reality. As they speak, gently withdraw your attention from the narrative, from the story they are telling. The story is the ego's favorite distraction. Let the words wash over you, through you, but do not cling to them. Instead, open a different kind of perception. Imagine you are listening with the space in the center of your chest, your heart center. What is the feeling tone behind their words? Forget the labels of sad or angry for a moment. Those are just more words, more boxes created by the mind. Go deeper. Does the energy feel warm or cool? Does it feel expansive or contracted? Is it jagged and sharp, like broken glass? Or is it heavy and dense, like a lead blanket? Is it light and effervescent, like bubbles rising? Your only task is to allow this frequency to resonate within the clear, silent space of your own presence. You do not need to absorb it or take it on as your own. You are not a sponge. You are a tuning fork. You allow yourself to vibrate with it, to feel it, to know it, without getting lost in it. You are the silent, spacious awareness that is witnessing this resonance. This is the highest form of empathy. It is not saying, "I know how you feel." It is the silent, embodied knowing of another's state of being, free from the contamination of your own story about it. When you offer this quality of listening to another person, you are giving them the rarest of all gifts, a space in which they can truly hear themselves. The world is constantly reacting to them, judging them, trying to fix them. This creates a state of perpetual contraction within them. But in the presence of your silent, non-judgmental, resonant listening, their nervous system receives a powerful message. You are safe. All of you is welcome here. Your light and your dark, your coherence and your contradiction. In this field of safety, a miraculous process unfolds. The other person, feeling truly heard for the first time, begins to relax. Their own inner walls begin to soften. As they speak into the clear mirror of your presence, they start to see their own reflection without distortion. They hear their own words echo back, not from your mouth, but from the sounding board of your silent attention. In this space, they often find their own solutions. They untangle their own knots. They discover a well of wisdom within themselves they never knew they had. You did not give them a single piece of advice. You did not fix them. You did nothing. And in that sacred nothingness, you allowed everything to happen. You held the space for their own healing to occur. This is the creative power of resonant listening. This is why unsolicited advice feels so violating. It is a form of wall building. It says, I am not willing to resonate with your uncomfortable feeling, so here is a solution to make it go away so that I can feel more comfortable. It is an act of subtle rejection. Resonant listening, in contrast, is an act of profound acceptance. It says, I am willing to be with you in this feeling. I am not afraid of your darkness. I will sit with you in the uncertainty. You are not alone. Of course, this is not easy. It is perhaps one of the most demanding spiritual practices there is. Why? Because to be a clear, crystalline tuning fork, the instrument itself must be free of cracks and debris. If someone speaks to you of their feeling of abandonment, and your own abandonment wound is unhealed and raw, you cannot resonate cleanly with their experience. The moment their frequency touches you, it will activate your own pain, your own story. Your inner well will immediately become clouded with the sediment of your past. You will cease to be a mirror for them, and instead, you will make the conversation about you, even if you do so silently. You will be vibrating with your own history, not their present reality. Your listening will be contaminated. Therefore, the ability to listen to another is directly proportional to your ability to listen to yourself. The capacity to hold space for another's pain is determined by your capacity to hold space for your own. To become a truly resonant listener, to be that clear and sturdy bridge for another soul to find its way across, you must first ensure the integrity of your own foundations. You cannot welcome another into a home that is in a state of chaos. You must first tend to the sacred space within. You must examine the very architecture of your own inner world. To become a resonant listener, a clear tuning fork for another, the instrument itself must be well tended. To build a sturdy bridge, your own shore must be solid ground, not shifting sand. This brings us to a foundational law of the universe, a truth so simple and so absolute that the ego constantly tries to ignore it. As within, so without. Your outer world is a flawless mirror of your inner world. The quality of your relationships, the nature of your experiences, and the texture of your conversations are not random events happening to you. They are reflections being cast from you. If your communication is consistently marked by chaos, misunderstanding, and pain, the search for the cause must eventually lead you back to the source. The reflection is not the problem. The image in the mirror is not the source of its own form. The source is the inner landscape from which you live and breathe and speak. Imagine your inner world is a sacred temple. For every human being, at the core of their being, this temple is pristine, beautiful, and filled with a silent, holy light. This is your birthright. But for most of us, through years of neglect and unawareness, the temple has fallen into disrepair. Let us be honest with ourselves, without judgment, and take a look inside. The entrance may be overgrown with the thorny weeds of old resentments and unforgiven hurts, making it difficult for anyone, including yourself, to even enter. As you step inside, the air is stale and heavy, thick with the smoke of unexpressed grief and the dust of accumulated disappointments. The floors, once polished marble, are now littered with the debris of limiting belief shards of "I am not worthy," sticky patches of "I will always be alone." Heavy stones of the world is a dangerous place. And look up. The grand ceilings are obscured by the cobwebs of anxious thoughts, intricate, sticky webs of worry about a future that has not happened and may never happen. The windows of this temple, through which you see the world, are clouded with the grime of unprocessed emotions, the red film of anger, the gray smear of sadness, the murky green of envy. With such clouded windows, how can you possibly see another person clearly? You can only see a distorted projection. colored by the grime of your own inner state, and the altar, the sacred center of the temple where your true self resides. Where the holy light shines, it is buried. It is lost beneath a mountain of second-hand opinions, societal expectations, egoic desires, and deep-seated fears. When you live inside a temple like this, communication is not an act of connection. It is a desperate plea from a prison. Your words carry the stale air of your inner world. They are heavy with the dust of your limiting beliefs. They are sharp with the thorns of your resentments. You speak not to connect, but to protect your dilapidated space, to justify the mess, to blame the outside world for the state of your own interior. You may crave connection, but from within this cluttered temple, you are incapable of receiving it. There is simply no room. The work, then, is not to go out and try to change the world. The work is to begin the gentle, patient, sacred task of cleaning your own temple. This is not a violent, self-hating purge. It is a loving act of restoration. You do not begin by taking a sledgehammer to the walls. You begin, simply, by picking up a broom. The broom is your awareness. The act of sweeping is the practice of mindfulness. You begin to gently sweep the floors of your mind. You observe the thoughts, the debris of I am not good enough, the dust of worrying. You see them for what they are. They are not you. They are not the temple. They are simply debris, accumulated over time. With the gentle broom of your awareness, you watch them arise and you watch them pass. You do not cling to them. You do not analyze them. You do not judge yourself for having them. You simply sweep. You are not the debris. You are the silent, loving presence holding the broom. With every sweep, the floor becomes a little clearer. With every moment of awareness, a little more space is created. Next, you take a soft cloth and a bucket of clear water, and you begin to wash the windows. The clear water is your unconditional acceptance. The cloth is your willingness to feel. To wash the windows, you must be willing to touch the grime. You must allow yourself to fully feel the unprocessed emotions that cloud your vision. You allow the sadness to be there, without a story. You allow the anger to be there, as pure energy, without needing to blame someone for it. You learn that emotions are simply energy in motion, emotion. When you give them the space to be felt without judgment, they move through you. They are like storms that pass. As they pass, they wash the windows clean. And for the first time, you begin to see the world and the people in it with startling clarity and compassion. Then you walk through the temple and you open every door, every shutter. You let the fresh air and the light of consciousness pour in. This is the act of questioning your limiting beliefs. You pick up a heavy stone from the floor, the belief that people can't be trusted, and you hold it in the light. You ask it gently, are you absolutely 100% true? Has there never been a single person I could trust? Where did I learn this belief? Does it serve my highest good to continue carrying this stone? In the light of honest inquiry, these old, heavy beliefs begin to lose their density. They become transparent, and eventually, they dissolve back into the nothingness from which they came. This is a practice for a lifetime. It is not a project you finish one weekend. It is a daily, moment-to-moment commitment to tending your own sacred space. But as you continue this gentle, loving work, something extraordinary happens. As the floors are cleared, as the windows are washed, as the light pours in, you begin to see it. There, in the center of the room, previously buried, is the altar. It is your true self, your core of being. It is radiant, whole, and untouchable by any thought, belief, or emotion. It has been there all along, patiently waiting. When you begin to speak and listen from this place, from the clean, quiet, light-filled space of your restored inner temple, everything changes. Your words are no longer desperate pleas from a prisoner. They are calm, clear offerings from a sovereign being. You no longer need anything from the other person. because your own inner space is already full, already whole. You are no longer communicating to get love, but to express the love that you are. And when you look out from the gleaming windows of your sacred temple, your perception of others is irrevocably transformed. You no longer see a world of threatening adversaries or potential judges. You look at another person, and you do not just see their personality, their defenses, their walls. You see their temple. You may recognize that their windows are clouded, that their floors are cluttered. But you know with unshakable certainty that at the center of their temple, the very same altar shines, the very same light resides, and in that recognition, judgment dissolves into compassion. The illusion of separation gives way to the truth of connection. You begin to see the other, not as other, but as a mirror of yourself. You stand now within the clean, quiet space of your inner temple. The light of awareness streams through clear windows, and the floor is swept clean of the most obvious debris. From this place of newfound clarity, you look out at the world, and specifically at the people you encounter. The view is about to change in a way you cannot yet imagine. You are about to learn one of the most transformative, and at times, most challenging, secrets of a conscious life. Every person you meet is a mirror. They are not just like a mirror. They are a living, breathing, walking reflection of your own state of consciousness. The universe, in its infinite intelligence and compassion, does not leave your inner work to chance. It provides you with a constant, moment-to-moment feedback system to show you the state of your own temple. This feedback system is the behavior and presence of other people. When you understand this principle, life ceases to be a series of random encounters and becomes a rich, profound classroom for your own awakening. Communication is no longer a game to be won, but a sacred opportunity to see yourself more clearly. Let us first explore the aspect of the mirror that is most difficult for the ego to accept, the negative reflection. Think of the last time you had a strong negative emotional reaction to someone. Perhaps it was intense irritation at a colleague's perceived incompetence. Perhaps it was a surge of anger at a partner's careless comment. Perhaps it was a wave of harsh judgment towards a stranger's lifestyle. In that moment, you believed, with every fiber of your being, that the cause of your painful emotion was that person. You believed they made you angry. They made you feel disrespected. They were the problem. The mirror principle invites you to consider a revolutionary alternative. That person did not create the feeling within you. The feeling, the painful energy, was already there, dormant within your own being, like a hidden bruise. The other person, by their words or actions, simply came along and pressed on that exact spot. The pain you feel is the pain of your own pre-existing wound, not the pain of their finger. They are not the cause of your pain. They are the messenger who has revealed to you exactly where your pain resides. They are a divine pointer, showing you, with perfect accuracy, which corner of your inner temple still requires loving attention. To try and change the other personto, make them stop being so incompetent, so careless, so arrogant, like standing in front of a mirror, seeing a smudge of dirt on your reflection's face, and furiously trying to scrub the mirror. It is an exhausting, frustrating, and ultimately futile exercise. You can scrub the mirror all day, you can yell at the mirror, you can break the mirror, but the smudge will remain on your own face. The only sane and effective course of action is to recognize the reflection for what it is. Turn your attention away from the mirror and gently, lovingly, clean your own face. So, when you feel that surge of judgment towards someone you deem arrogant, the mirror is asking you to pause and inquire within. What is my relationship with arrogance? Is there a part of me that is terrified of being seen as arrogant, and so I police it fiercely in others? Or, is there a hidden, unacknowledged arrogance within me that I cannot stand to see reflected back? When you are infuriated by another's perceived weakness, the mirror is asking, what is my relationship with my own weakness? Do I deny it, suppress it, hate it within myself? Is their vulnerability simply triggering my own terror of being vulnerable? The person who triggers you most is your greatest guru. They are showing you the exact location of your own chains. To turn away from them in anger is to refuse the key to your own freedom. This principle also works in the positive. When you are deeply moved by another's courage, when you are brought to tears by their compassion, when you feel an overwhelming sense of admiration for their creativity or wisdom, you are also looking in a mirror. You are not just seeing their courage or their wisdom. For you to be able to recognize that quality in them, the seed of that very same quality must exist within you. A dog cannot recognize mathematical genius. You can only see in the world what is already present, in some form, within your own consciousness. Therefore, the person who inspires you is showing you your own potential. Their brilliance is a reflection of the light that is dormant within you, waiting to be acknowledged and expressed. To feel envy or separation in that moment is the ego's trap. The soul's response is gratitude. Thank you for showing me what is possible. Thank you for activating this part of myself. You have shown me a beautiful reflection of a future self I can now grow into. The practice of this is simple in its instruction, but it requires immense courage and self-honesty. When you are in conversation, when you are interacting with another, become a detective of your own inner state. When a strong emotional charge arises, positive or negative, let that be your signal. In that moment, pause. Instead of reacting outward, turn the lens of your attention inward. Ask the sacred question: what is this person showing me about me? What part of my own temple is being illuminated right now? This single question shifts everything. It moves you from the powerless position of a victim to the empowered position of a conscious creator. It transforms every interaction from a potential conflict into a curriculum for your own evolution. The world is no longer a scary place full of difficult people. It becomes your personal, interactive, perfectly designed university. When you truly begin to live from this understanding, the entire landscape of your communication will change. You will begin to listen not just for the words being said, but for the information being offered about your own inner state. Ah, there is that feeling of irritation again. How interesting. Let me get to know it. What belief of mine is being challenged? You will find yourself becoming less reactive, more spacious, more compassionate both to others and to yourself. You realize that they too are living inside their own temple, looking out through their own windows, fighting their own shadows. You see their abrasive words not as an attack, but as a cry of pain from a cluttered inner space. And this leads to a profound dissolution. If every person is simply a mirror, if every conflict is simply an opportunity to see your own reflection more clearly, then what happens to the desperate, primal, ego-driven need to be right? What happens to the burning desire to win the argument, to prove your point, to stand on the victor's podium of righteousness? It begins to seem, for the first time, utterly absurd. The fight is not with them. It has never been with them. The fight is with your own reflection. And who, in their right mind, would wage a war against a mirror? You are looking in the mirror. You are beginning to recognize that the friction, the conflict, the irritation you feel in the presence of others is a reflection of your own inner state, a sacred map pointing you toward the unhealed corners of your own temple. As this realization deepens, you will inevitably come face to face with the chief guardian of your inner prison, the most powerful and seductive agent of the ego. This guardian is not a monster or a demon. It is a simple, pervasive, and profoundly destructive urge, the need to be right. This need is the very lifeblood of the egoic self. The ego, that phantom sense of a separate me, is not a solid entity. It is a fragile construct, a collage of beliefs, memories, opinions, and stories. It has no inherent reality, and so it lives in a constant state of fear, perpetually seeking to validate its own existence. Its primary strategy for this validation is to be right. When you are right, the ego feels solid, justified, superior, and momentarily safe. When your beliefs are affirmed and another's are defeated, the ego receives a jolt of energy, a confirmation of its own reality. An attack on your opinion is perceived by the ego as a direct threat to your survival, and so it will defend its position with the ferocity of a cornered animal. Imagine this need as a clenched fist. Feel it in your own body right now. Tense your hand into a tight fist. Feel the knuckles turn white, the muscles in your forearm strain, the tension creep up into your shoulder and your jaw. This is the physical embodiment of being right. It is a posture of defense, of rigidity, of aggression. The clenched fist can strike. It can protect what it already holds. But it has one critical limitation. It cannot receive. It cannot hold another's hand. It cannot accept a gift. It cannot feel the subtle texture of the world around it. It is closed off, isolated in its own tension. This is the state you enter, mentally and physically, every time you choose being right over being open. Most conversations, especially when disagreement arises, are nothing more than a meeting of two clenched fists, an energetic battle. Picture a battlefield. Each person stands in their fortified castle, their deeply held position. The words they speak are not bridges. They are projectiles launched from a catapult. The goal is not to understand, but to vanquish. The aim is to see your flag of rightness flying over the rubble of the other's argument. In this state, you are not truly listening. You are reloading. You are scanning your opponent's words for weaknesses, for openings, for logical fallacies you can exploit. Your mind is racing, your heart is pounding, your body is flooded with the hormones of conflict adrenaline and cortisol. You are in fight or flight mode. This is not just a psychological state, it is a total physiological takeover. Your breathing becomes shallow and rapid, limiting oxygen to the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for empathy, nuanced thinking, and creative problem solving. Your vision literally narrows. You are, in that moment, a less intelligent, less compassionate, and less capable version of yourself. You have devolved from a conscious human being into a biological defense machine. Is it any wonder that no true understanding, no genuine connection can possibly emerge from this state? You have sacrificed the vast landscape of love and connection for the tiny, barren rock of being right. And what is the prize for your victory? You may, through sheer force of will or superior rhetoric, batter the other person into submission or silence. Your fist is the last one standing. You have won. A fleeting, hollow surge of satisfaction courses through you. But what is the cost? Look at the battlefield after the fight. The air is thick with the smoke of resentment. A wall has been built where a bridge could have stood. The other person does not feel enlightened. They feel defeated, unheard, and diminished. The invisible thread of trust has been frayed, perhaps irreparably. You are left alone in your castle of rightness, and it is a cold and lonely place to be. The connection you secretly crave has been sacrificed at the altar of your ego. This is the poison of being right. It corrodes intimacy, it smothers love, and it ensures that you will remain trapped in the prison of your own limited perspective. The way out is not through a bigger fight or a better argument. The way out is through a conscious act of surrender. The word surrender is terrifying to the ego. It equates it with weakness, defeat, and annihilation. But this is a misunderstanding. You are not being asked to surrender to the other person. You are not being asked to abandon your truth or adopt a belief you know to be false. You are being asked to perform a far more profound and powerful act, to surrender the need to be right. It is a conscious choice to value connection over contention. It is an act of supreme strength, of choosing the wisdom of your soul over the fear of your ego. Return to the clenched fist. The practice is to consciously, deliberately, begin to open your hand. Feel the release of tension in your knuckles. Feel the warmth and blood flow back into your palm. Feel the relaxation spread up your arm, into your shoulder, and through your entire body. This physical act is a powerful anchor for the inner act of letting go. In the heat of a disagreement, when you feel the familiar clenching in your mind and body, you can consciously choose to open your fist. You can take one deep breath, and with that breath, you let go of your desperate grip on your position. This is not a passive state. It is an active choice, facilitated by a new kind of language. Not a language of attack and defense, but a language of opening and inquiry. There are phrases that act as keys to unlock this clenched state. The first is, "Help me understand." This phrase is magic. It instantly changes the energy of the entire interaction. It ceases to be a battle and becomes a collaborative quest. It honors that the other person's reality, as they perceive it, is valid, even if you do not agree with it. It is an act of respect that lays the first brick of a bridge. Another powerful key is the phrase, "You might be right." The ego will scream in protest at these words. It will feel like a betrayal. But notice the freedom in them. It does not say, "You are right." It simply cracks the door of absolute certainty. It allows a sliver of humility and doubt to enter the fortified castle. In that crack, a new light can get in. It communicates to the other person that you are willing to question your own perspective, which makes them far more likely to question theirs. The most powerful declaration, however, is one you can make to yourself, silently, in the middle of the storm. I choose connection over being right. To say this is to align yourself with your deepest values. It is a reminder of what truly matters. Does it truly matter who wins this petty argument? Or does it matter that the person in front of you, whom you care for, feels loved and heard? This question, asked honestly, will almost always lead you to open your hand. When you let go of the need to be right, a space is created. A beautiful, luminous, silent space in the middle of the conversation. The ego fears this space of not knowing. It rushes to fill it with more words, more opinions, more noise. But your soul recognizes this space as the fertile ground of creation. It is in this shared silence, free from the clash of two clenched fists, that a higher truth can emerge. It is here that you realize the absurdity of the fight. Whose rightness were you defending so fiercely? Your perspective is the product of your unique life, your culture, your family, your triumphs, your traumas. It is one single thread in an infinite tapestry. The other person's perspective is another thread. To insist that your thread is the entire tapestry is an act of profound ignorance. True wisdom lies in recognizing that reality is a multifaceted diamond. You are holding one facet, they are holding another. Both of you are right from your limited view, and both of you are completely missing the brilliance of the whole. When two people are willing to put down their individual truths for a moment and stand together in that open space of not knowing, they create the possibility for a third reality to be born. A shared understanding, a creative solution, an insight that neither could have reached alone. This is the alchemy of conscious communication. It is the transformation of the lead of conflict into the gold of connection. When you are no longer fixated on the words, on the content, on the intellectual chess match of the argument, your awareness becomes free. It is no longer consumed by the noise of the mind. It can now descend to a deeper level of perception. You can begin to feel the subtle current that flows beneath the river of words. You can sense the emotional charge, the unspoken needs, the vibrational truth of the person in front of you. You are no longer just listening to their argument. You are beginning to hear their soul. You are learning to speak and listen in the true mother tongue of the universe, the universal language of energy. You have opened your hand. You have released the ego's desperate, clenched fist need to be right, and in its place, you have chosen the open, receptive palm of connection. In doing so, you have freed up an immense amount of energy and attention that was previously consumed by the mental warfare of argument and defense. With this newfound capacity, you begin to perceive a deeper dimension of communication, a layer of reality that was always present, but was drowned out by the noise of your own mind. You begin to sense the current that flows beneath the river of words. You begin to learn the mother tongue of the universe, the language of energy. This is not a new or mystical concept. It is the most fundamental reality of your existence. You are not a solid, separate body that has an energy field. You are an energy field, a vibrating constellation of information that has temporarily taken the form of a human body. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every intention you hold is a vibration. And this vibration radiates from you at all times, a constant, silent broadcast that is far more honest and far more powerful than any word you could ever speak. Think of a time someone said to you, "I'm fine," but you knew with a certainty that defied all logic that they were shattered inside. What part of you knew that? It was not your ears that heard the truth. It was your being that felt the truth. Your energetic intelligence received their broadcast of pain, even as their words attempted to create a smokescreen. This is the language we are now learning to consciously perceive and interpret. To understand this better, imagine that you are a radio station. Your physical body is the broadcast tower, and your consciousness, your state of being, determines the frequency you transmit. Your thoughts and emotions are the tuning knobs. When you are in a state of fear, contraction, and scarcity, you are broadcasting a low, dense, static-filled frequency. When you are in a state of love, expansion, and peace, you are broadcasting a high, clear, coherent frequency. This is not a moral judgment. A low frequency is not bad any more than the bass note on a cello is bad. It is simply a description of the energy's quality. The words you speak are like the announcer's voice at the radio station. Now, imagine the announcer is reading a script of beautiful, loving poetry, but the station itself, the underlying carrier wave, is broadcasting a frequency of pure, chaotic, static, the frequency of anger or resentment. What does a person with a radio tuned to your station actually experience? They may hear the lovely words, but they will feel the static. They will feel the unsettling, jarring energy that contradicts the words. Their own body, their own nervous system, will instinctively react to the frequency, not the script. It will sense the incongruence, and a feeling of mistrust or unease will be the result. This is the source of so much confusion and pain in human relationships. We say one thing, but our energy broadcasts another. We say, "I'm not angry," while our entire being radiates the dense, spiky frequency of rage. We say, "I trust you," while our energy field is contracted in a tight, protective shell of fear. The listener is caught in a double bind. Their mind hears the words, but their body feels the truth. And the body never lies. True influence, authentic connection, and deep trust are only ever born from congruence when the words you speak are in perfect harmony with the frequency you are broadcasting. When your "I love you" is carried on a clear, open, radiant frequency of love, the message is received not just by the ears, but by the heart, the cells, the very soul of the other person. It has the power to heal, to transform, to create worlds. The first step in becoming a conscious communicator, then, is to become a conscious broadcaster. You must become aware of the frequency you are transmitting in any given moment. This does not require a special psychic sense. It requires the simple, grounded practice of turning your attention inward. Take a moment right now. Without trying to change or fix anything, simply notice your own inner climate. What is the weather like inside you? Is it clear and sunny? Is there a gentle breeze? Or is it foggy, making it hard to see? Is there a storm brewing on the horizon, with flashes of anger and rumbles of anxiety? Is it a heavy, overcast day of sadness? Be honest and gentle with yourself. This is your current broadcast. Now, locate this weather in your body. Where does the storm of anger live? Is it a fire in your belly? A tightness in your jaw? Where does the fog of confusion reside? Is it a pressure behind your eyes? A sense of dizziness? Where do you feel the sunshine of peace? Is it a warmth in your chest? An openness in your throat? Your body is the barometer of your energetic state. By learning to read its subtle signals, you learn to read your own frequency. The practice is not to force a change in the weather. You cannot command the rain to stop. To try and force yourself to feel peaceful when you are feeling angry is an act of self-violence. It is simply the ego putting on a spiritual mask. The practice is awareness. Simply by being aware that you are broadcasting a frequency of anger, you introduce a new element, the light of consciousness. In the presence of this light, the dense energy begins to shift on its own. By noticing the tightness in your jaw, you can consciously choose to breathe into it, to soften it. By noticing the storm in your belly, you can place a hand there and offer it your compassionate presence. You are not trying to stop the broadcast. You are bringing love and awareness to the broadcaster. And in doing so, the frequency, naturally, gracefully, begins to clear. Just as you are a radio station, so is every other person. Learning to listen energetically is the art of quieting your own broadcast for a moment so that you can clearly receive theirs. It is returning to the state of the crystal tuning fork. When you are in conversation, practice shifting a portion of your awareness away from the words and onto the feeling tone of the interaction. Feel the energy of the other person. Does it feel open or closed, expansive or contracted? Are you feeling uplifted in their presence, or do you feel a sense of being drained? Trust this perception. It is your deepest intelligence at work. But to do this effectively, to be able to perceive another's energy clearly, without being overwhelmed by it or having it trigger your own, you must cultivate a particular inner quality. You must be able to create a safe container, a neutral, sacred space within your own presence, where the other person's energy can be felt, seen, and honored without judgment. You must learn the profound and compassionate art of holding space. You have learned to listen with your entire being, to perceive the subtle, honest language of energy that flows beneath the surface of all conversation. You can now sense the inner climate of another, their storms of anger, their fogs of confusion, their sunshine of joy. This is a profound skill, but with this new perception comes a critical choice point. The untrained impulse, upon sensing another's painful energy, is to immediately react. We rush in to fix, to advise, to cheerlead, to distract. We try to solve their problem, often because their pain makes us uncomfortable. We want their storm to pass so that we can feel the sun again. These are all actions born of our own needs, our own ego. They are subtle forms of wall building, disguised as help. There is a more conscious, more powerful, and far more healing alternative. It is the sacred art of holding space. Holding space is not an action, but a state of being. It is the capacity to be fully present with another person, offering them the sanctuary of your non-judgmental awareness, while they navigate their own inner world. It is the willingness to walk alongside them in their darkness without needing to turn on a light for them. It is the ultimate expression of trust in their own resilience, their own wisdom, and their own timing. You are not their savior, you are their sanctuary. To truly understand this, let us evolve our metaphor. Imagine that you are a container, a beautifully crafted vessel. When you hold space for someone, you are offering them this container. They can, if they feel safe enough, begin to pour the contents of their own being into it. They may pour in the scalding, molten lava of their rage. They may pour in the murky, stagnant water of their grief. They may pour in the chaotic, swirling winds of their anxiety and fear. The practice of holding space is to be a container that can receive all of this without breaking, without judging, and without trying to change the contents. What are the qualities of such a container? First, the container must be sturdy. It must be strong enough to withstand the intensity of another's emotions without cracking. If someone pours their rage into your container and you immediately react with your own defensiveness or fear, your container has shattered. The sturdiness of your container is directly proportional to how rooted you are in your own inner silence, in the deep well of your being. When you are centered in your own unshakable presence, the storms of another can rage around you. but they cannot knock you over. You are the deep ocean, and their emotion is merely a wave on the surface. Second, the container must be spacious. It must be large enough to hold all of who they are, not just the parts you find comfortable or agreeable. It must be able to hold their contradictions, their love and their resentment, their hope and their despair, their strength and their fragility all at the same time, without demanding that they choose one. This spaciousness is born from your own work in cleaning your inner temple. When you have made peace with your own inner contradictions, you have the capacity to allow for them in others. You create room for their messiness because you are no longer terrified of your own. Third, the container must be empty. Before you offer it to another, you must consciously set aside your own agenda. You set aside your need to be right, your brilliant advice, your own similar story that you are dying to share. If your container is already full of your own stuff, there is no room for them. The act of holding space is an act of profound humility. It is the understanding that, in this moment, your story does not matter. Your only function is to be a clear, empty vessel for their truth to be seen and heard. Finally, and most crucially, the container must be non-porous. This is the boundary of compassion. The container can feel the heat of the lava without becoming the lava. You can witness and resonate with their sadness without absorbing it and making it your own. You maintain the awareness that this is their feeling, not my feeling. This is the critical distinction between empathy and enmeshment. Empathy is feeling with someone while remaining centered in your own being. Enmeshment is losing yourself in their feeling, becoming drowned in their reality. A porous container helps no one. It simply creates two people drowning instead of one. The non-porous quality is maintained by your unwavering awareness that you are the container, not the contents. Think of a time when you felt truly held by another person. They may not have said much at all, but you felt their steady, unwavering presence. You felt safe enough to be utterly, completely yourself, to be angry, to be heartbroken, to be confused. In their presence, you felt no pressure to be different than you were, and in that sacred space of total acceptance, you may have found your own clarity. Your own tears may have brought a sense of release. Your own articulation of your anger may have revealed the hurt that lay beneath it. They didn't fix you. Their presence created the conditions for you to access your own inner physician. This is the gift you give when you hold space. The practice of holding space is cultivated in stillness and silence. It is a full-body commitment. When you choose to hold space, you bring your body into a state of receptive stillness. You breathe deeply from your belly, anchoring yourself in the present moment. Your posture is open, your gaze is soft. Your own nervous system becomes a calming agent, a silent message to the other person's body that says, "You are safe here." Your mind will inevitably offer its usual commentary, judgments, solutions, questions. The practice is to treat these thoughts like passing clouds, acknowledging them without engaging, and gently returning your focus again and again to the person in front of you, to the energy they are broadcasting. The few words you do use become incredibly significant. They are not meant to direct or advise. They are verbalizations of the container itself. Phrases like, "I hear you. Thank you for sharing that with me." Or, "That sounds so difficult." These are not empty platitudes. Spoken from a place of true presence, they are powerful affirmations that say, "The container is still here. It is sturdy. You are not alone in this." To be invited to hold space for another is a sacred privilege. It is an act of profound intimacy and trust. They are allowing you into the unmanicured, vulnerable sanctuary of their inner world. This trust must be honored with the utmost reverence and integrity. You are a guardian of their sacred space for that moment in time. And so, you have created a sanctuary. Through your silence, your presence, and your intention, you have cultivated a space that is safe, fertile, and receptive. The ground is now prepared. Into this pristine and sacred container, a word can be placed. But what word? What will you choose to plant in this soil that you have so lovingly tended? The words you choose now, if you choose to speak at all, are no longer just sounds. They are imbued with the power of the space itself. They are alchemical agents, capable of profound transformation. They are seeds. You have cultivated a sanctuary. Through the stillness of your body and the quiet of your mind, you have become a sturdy, spacious, and empty container. Within this sacred space of presence, another person has felt safe enough to pour out the contents of their heart. The air is now pristine, charged with potential, and utterly receptive. To speak a word into this space is no longer a casual act. It is a gesture of immense power and profound responsibility. It is here that you cease to be a mere communicator and you become an alchemist. Alchemy, at its core, is the art of transformation. It is the practice of taking a base, dense material, like lead, and transmuting it into a noble, radiant substance, like gold. In the realm of communication, the raw, base materials are the difficult facts of life pain, fear, conflict, confusion. The gold is the understanding, the connection, the healing, and the wisdom that can emerge from these experiences. Your words are the catalytic agents, the secret elixirs that can either facilitate this transmutation or curdle the entire experiment into poison. Most of us are unconscious alchemists, casting verbal spells all day long without any awareness of their creative power. We take a situation, a feeling, or a person, and we encase it in the lead of our language. We use words that limit, that label, and that imprison reality in a box of our own making. Consider the vibrational difference between these statements. When you say to someone, "You are an anxious person," you have performed a dark kind of alchemy. You have taken the fluid, moving energy of their feeling and solidified it into a permanent identity. You have handed them a cage and told them it is their home. They are no longer a person experiencing anxiety. They are an anxious person. The energy of this statement is heavy, contracting, and final. It offers no room for change, no possibility for freedom. Now, consider a different approach. The situation is the same. The person is experiencing the same inner turmoil. But instead of a label, you offer an observation. "I notice you seem to be carrying a lot of anxious energy right now. Can you feel the difference?" The energy of this statement is lighter, more spacious. It separates the person from the experience. They are not the anxiety. They are the one who is experiencing the anxiety. This simple shift in language opens a door. It transforms a leaden identity into a fluid process, and a process, by its very nature, can change. This is the essence of verbal alchemy, choosing words that create possibility rather than words that foreclose it. Let us examine the ingredients in your alchemical laboratory. Think of the word "but." It is one of a word's most common and destructive agents. It is a verbal eraser. "I appreciate your hard work, but this part is wrong." The "but" instantly negates the appreciation. The only thing the listener truly hears is the criticism. It creates a dynamic of opposition. Now, replace that leaden ingredient with the golden connector and "I appreciate your hard work, and I see an area here we could improve." With and both truths are allowed to coexist. The appreciation is genuine, and the feedback is additive, not oppositional. The energy shifts from conflict to collaboration. Consider the word "should." You should be more organized. You shouldn't feel that way. "Should" is the word of the judge. It carries the heavy energy of external pressure and implied criticism. It almost always creates resistance, either overt or covert, because it disrespects the other person's autonomy. The alchemical alternative is the word "could." Could there be a system that might help you feel more organized? I wonder what could happen if you allowed yourself to fully feel that way. "Could" is the word of empowerment. It is an offering, not a command. It opens a door of possibility and invites the other person to step through it of their own free will. Consider the accusatory question, "Why? Why did you do that?" For the person on the receiving end, this question often feels like being put under a harsh spotlight. It demands a justification, a defense of one's actions, and immediately puts them in the position of a suspect in an interrogation. The alchemical transmutation of why is what was going on for you in that moment? What was the need you were trying to meet by doing that? What is a question born of pure curiosity? It does not seek a justification. It seeks to understand the inner world of the other. It is an invitation to a deeper level of self-revelation. The greatest alchemical work you will ever perform with words is the reframing of your own inner dialogue. Listen to the language you use inside your own temple. When you make a mistake, does your inner alchemist say, "I am a failure," turning a momentary event into a leaden identity? Or does it say, "I am learning"? When you face a difficulty, does your inner voice declare, "This is a terrible problem," a phrase that evokes feelings of helplessness? Or does it reframe it? This is a fascinating challenge, an utterance that summons your strength and creativity. You cannot speak gold to others if you are constantly turning your own inner world to lead. The transmutation must begin at home. When you have practiced this within yourself, you can then offer it as a gift to others. When someone is trapped in their own leaden story, "I have failed, I am broken," there is no way out. Your words can act as the philosopher's stone. This is not about disagreeing with them or trying to cheer them up with empty platitudes. That would be a dishonoring of their reality. Instead, you use alchemical language to gently question the frame of their prison. To the person who says, "I am a failure," you might respond, "It sounds like you are carrying a profound sense of failure right now." You validate the feeling, while subtly creating a space between them and the feeling. Then you might ask, "What has this experience made possible for you to learn?" With this question, you are not denying their pain. You are lovingly inviting them to see that even lead can contain a hidden spark of gold. Every word you choose to speak into the sacred container of presence is a seed. You have tilled the soil with your silence and watered it with your non-judgmental attention. The ground is fertile beyond measure. Now you must ask yourself, what am I planting? Am I planting the leaden seeds of labels, of buts and shoulds, which will grow into weeds of resentment and separation? Or am I planting the golden seeds of observation, of ands and coulds, which will blossom into the nourishing fruit of understanding and connection? The conscious alchemist knows that the power of an ingredient is determined not only by its nature, but by how and when it is introduced into the vessel. The most powerful word, spoken at the wrong time, can ruin the entire process. And sometimes, the most transformative ingredient of all is not a word, but the space around the word. It is the silence from which the word is born, and the silence into which it is received. This is the pregnant pause, the momentary stillness that allows the alchemical reaction to fully unfold. You are the alchemist, standing before the crucible of a sacred conversation. You have learned to choose your words with the care of a master, understanding that each one is an ingredient with the power to transmute or to poison. But the most masterful alchemists know a secret that transcends the ingredients themselves. They understand the profound power of heat and time. They understand that the most potent reactions do not happen in a flurry of activity, but in moments of quiet, intense, and purposeful stillness. In communication, this stillness is the pause, the pregnant pause. In our modern world, we have been conditioned to fear silence. In conversation, a pause of more than a second or two can feel like a gaping void, an abyss of awkwardness that must be filled at all costs. The ego panics. It interprets silence as disapproval, as boredom, as a loss of connection. It scrambles for the nearest word, any word, to patch the hole, to prove that it is still present, still engaging, still in control. We chatter, we fill, we rush, terrified of what we might find in the space between our sounds. We have come to believe that connection is built only through the relentless laying of verbal bricks. This is a profound misunderstanding. The pause is not a void, it is a womb. It is not an absence. It is the presence of potential. It is the most fertile ground in the entire landscape of human connection. Imagine your carefully chosen words are seeds. You have selected a golden seed of possibility, a seed of compassion, a seed of transformative insight. Now, what happens if you simply dump a whole bag of seeds onto a hard paved surface? They will lie there, inert, useless, unable to fulfill their purpose. This is what a conversation without pauses is like, a stream of words that land on the surface of the listener's mind, but never have the chance to take root. They are heard, perhaps, but they are not absorbed. They do not germinate. The pause is the rich, dark, fertile soil that you place between the seeds. When you speak a meaningful sentence, and then deliberately allow a space of silence to follow, you are giving the seed you just planted the soil it needs to grow. In that silence, several magical things happen. First, there is absorption. The listener's nervous system, which has been processing the energy of your words, is given a moment to catch up. The vibrational signature of what you said can finally land and be fully received, not just by their intellect, but by their body and their heart. The meaning moves from a concept in the head to a felt sense in the being. Second, there is germination. It is in the quiet of the pause that the listener's own inner world begins to interact with the seed you planted. Their own thoughts, memories, and feelings connect with your words. An aha moment can occur. An insight can bubble up from their own well. The seed sprouts, putting down roots into the soil of their own experience. This cannot happen when they are busy processing your next sentence. Third, there is integration. The pause allows both you and the listener to integrate the last moment before moving to the next. It lets the energetic shift in the room settle. It is a shared, deep breath. A conversation with these fertile pauses feels spacious, nourishing, and profound. It is a well-tended garden. A conversation without them feels frantic, superficial, and exhausting. It is a pile of seeds on concrete. To become conscious of this, you can begin to recognize and practice 3 distinct kinds of pauses, each with its own alchemical function. The first is the pause of reception. This is the silence you consciously create after the other person has finished speaking. The normal reactive tendency is to immediately respond to, agree, to disagree, to share your own experience. The conscious communicator resists this impulse. Instead, they pause. They take a full breath. They allow the other person's words to land fully within them. This pause is a profound gift. It communicates, far more powerfully than words, what you said matters. I am taking it in. I am honoring its weight and its significance. It makes the other person feel truly seen and heard. This silent act of honoring is one of the most sturdy bricks you can use to build a bridge of connection. The second is the pause of intention. This is the silence you create before you speak. You feel the impulse to say something rise within you. It could be a piece of advice, a question, a personal story. Instead of letting it fly from your lips immediately, you hold it for a moment. You pause. In that brief space, you dip back into the silent well of your being and you check your intention. Is this word I am about to speak coming from my ego's need to sound smart or helpful? Or is it arising from a genuine desire to serve the connection, to serve the other person's unfolding? Is it a seed or is it a stone? This pause ensures that your words are not reactive projectiles, but conscious, purposeful offerings. It is the pause that distinguishes the apprentice from the master alchemist. The third, and most intimate, is the shared pause of being. This is a silence that is not created by one person, but that descends upon the conversation organically. It happens when you have co-created such a deep space of safety and presence that words are no longer necessary. The verbal exchange falls away, and you are left simply being with each other in a state of silent communion. It is not an awkward silence. It is a rich, full, and deeply peaceful silence. It is the feeling of two souls recognizing each other beyond the masks of personality. In these moments, more is communicated than in an hour of chatter. This shared pause is the ultimate fruit of conscious communication, a taste of the profound peace that underlies all existence. To wield the power of the pause requires courage. It requires you to trust the silence. It demands that you tolerate the ego's frantic discomfort with the unknown. It is an act of faith that the connection is strong enough to exist without constant verbal reinforcement. Faith that the other person has the wisdom to find their own insights in the quiet, and faith that something true and beautiful will emerge from the stillness. This courage is, in itself, a profound form of vulnerability. To stand silently is to be seen without the defensive shield of your words. To let a moment hang in the air, unresolved, is to admit that you do not have all the answers, that you are not in control. It is an act of surrender to the flow of the conversation, to the wisdom of the present moment. And when you dare to speak from that silent, fertile, and vulnerable space, the words that emerge have a different quality. They are often your most honest, authentic, and unshielded truths. To speak this kind of truth is the ultimate act of courage and the purest expression of your soul's vibration. It is the vibration of vulnerability. You stand in the fertile silence, the sacred space between words. You have learned to listen with your soul, to choose your words like an alchemist, and to honor the pregnant pause. From this place of deep presence, a new threshold appears. It is the gateway to the most potent and transformative force in human connection. This force is shrouded in myth and fear. It has been mistaken for weakness, yet it is the ultimate strength. It is the raw, resonant, and unmistakable frequency of truth itself. It is the vibration of vulnerability. For most of your life, you have been taught to fear this vibration. You have been trained to build armor. From the first time you were told, "Don't cry," or "Be a big girl," or "Don't be so sensitive," you learned that your authentic, unfiltered emotional self was not safe, not acceptable. And so, brick by brick, plate by plate, you began to construct a fortress around your heart. Each time you were hurt, rejected, misunderstood, or shamed, you added another layer to your armor. Look at this armor now. It is a masterpiece of self-protection, exquisitely crafted over decades. One piece is called perfectionism, a polished breastplate that deflects any criticism by attempting to be flawless. Another is cynicism, a heavy dark helmet with a narrow slit for vision, which presumes the worst in others to avoid disappointment. There is the armor of intellectualism, which uses complex theories and abstract language to create a moat of untouchable intelligence around the self. There is the armor of humor, a light, flexible chainmail that uses jokes and sarcasm to keep anything from getting too serious, too close. And for some, there is the armor of stoicism or aggression, a heavy, spiked shield that dares anyone to even try to come near. This armor has served a purpose. It has kept you safe. It has helped you survive. But you must be honest about its cost. Feel the sheer weight of it. It is exhausting to carry this fortress around with you every single day. The energy it takes to maintain this facade, to police your own authenticity, is immense. This is the root of so much burnout and fatigue. Furthermore, while the armor protects you from pain, it also isolates you from love. It blocks the daggers of criticism, but it also blocks the warmth of a gentle touch. It shields you from judgment, but it also prevents you from being truly seen. From behind the walls of your fortress, you can never experience true intimacy, because intimacy is the joyful process of two people agreeing to set their armor aside and meet in the open field of their shared humanity. Communication from behind the armor is muffled and distorted. It is the language of defense. It avoids the simple, terrifying power of "I feel" and instead favors the detached pronouncements of "it is," or the accusatory stance of "you are." It is a performance, a strategy, a constant negotiation for safety. But it is not connection. The journey of conscious communication must inevitably lead to the conscious act of unfastening this armor. This is not about having an emotional breakdown or becoming a puddle of neediness. That is, uncontrolled, unconscious, emotional leakage. What we are speaking of is conscious vulnerability, the deliberate, courageous choice to reveal your authentic self, your true feelings, your uncertainties, and your needs from a place of centered strength. Imagine unfastening the first clasp of your breastplate. The ego will scream in terror. It will flood your mind with 1,000 catastrophic scenarios. They will laugh at you. They will use this against you. You will be annihilated. This fear is real. It is the stored memory of every past hurt. The practice is not to ignore the fear, but to feel it, to acknowledge its presence with compassion. I hear you, fear. Thank you for trying to protect me, and to choose to unfasten the clasp anyway. This is the definition of courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act from the heart in the presence of fear. In this single act, you begin to redefine your understanding of strength. Society has taught you that strength is the brittle, heavy armorth, ability to feel nothing, to need no one, to stand alone and impenetrable. This is a lie. That is not strength. It is rigidity. And what is rigid eventually breaks. True strength is the supple, resilient, living skin beneath the armor. It is the capacity to be open-hearted and soft in a world that so often feels hard. It is the profound power to feel everything, the joy and the sorrow, the connection and the hurt, and to stay present with it all without closing down. How do we speak from this unarmored place? We learn the 3 foundational pillars of vulnerable language. The first and most important is the phrase, I feel. This is the master key that unlocks the heart. To say, from a calm and centered place, I feel sad, or I feel hurt, or I feel scared, without blaming the other person for your feeling, is an act of radical self-responsibility and profound vulnerability. You are not saying, you made me feel sad. You are simply revealing your own inner landscape, offering a window into your temple. This statement invites connection rather than demanding a defense. The second pillar is the phrase, I need. We are taught that to have needs is to be needy. But a human being without needs is a corpse. To consciously express a need is an act of self-love and an offering of trust to another. This is not about making demands. There is a world of difference between you need to listen to me and the vulnerable offering, I need to feel heard right now. Would you be willing to just listen for a few minutes? One is an attack, the other is an invitation. To express a clean, clear need gives the other person the beautiful opportunity to meet that need, and in doing so, to forge a powerful bond of trust and reciprocity. The third pillar, and perhaps the most liberating, is the phrase, I don't know. In a world that rewards certainty and expertise, these 3 words are a balm of freedom. To admit, I don't know, is to lay down the impossibly heavy burden of having to have all the answers. It dissolves the isolating armor of intellectual pride. It is a humble and honest invitation for collaboration, for shared discovery. It opens a space where 2 minds, 2 souls, can come together to explore a question, rather than 2 egos fighting over who is right. When you begin to communicate from this place of conscious vulnerability, you begin to broadcast a different frequency. The vibration of vulnerability is the frequency of pure, unadorned authenticity. It is a clear, resonant tone that has the uncanny ability to bypass the listener's own armor and speak directly to their heart. The soul of the other person recognizes the truth in your vibration. It feels like coming home. Your vulnerability creates a profound mirror effect. When you have the courage to take off your helmet, it wordlessly gives the other person permission to take off theirs. Your authenticity is an invitation for them to be authentic. Your willingness to be real creates a safe space for them to be real. This is how genuine intimacy is built, not with grand gestures, but with small, courageous moments of unarmored truth. One person takes a risk, and in the safety of the other's reception, the other takes a risk in return. It is a slow, beautiful dance of mutual disarmament. It is vital to distinguish this conscious, heart-centered vulnerability from its unconscious shadow, which is often called oversharing or emotional dumping. Oversharing is boundaryless. It is often a desperate, anxious venting of raw emotion with a hidden agendato, illicit pity, to gain validation, or to make the other person responsible for your feelings. It comes from a place of inner poverty and feels heavy and burdensome to the listener. Conscious vulnerability, by contrast, is shared with discernment. It arises from a place of inner strength and self-possession. You are not falling apart. You are consciously choosing to open a part of yourself. The intention is not to get something, but to give something, the gift of your true self, for the purpose of deepening connection. Living without your armor is living in a different world. You are no longer wasting monumental amounts of life force on maintaining a false front. This liberated energy is now available for you to use for creativity, for joy, for passion, for service. Life becomes more vivid, the colors are brighter, the music is sweeter. You feel more deeply, you love more completely. You are fully, radiantly alive. Your communication from this state carries a new kind of influence. It is not the forceful influence of a battering ram, but the quiet, irresistible influence of the sun melting ice. It does not seek to persuade through logic or dominate through will. It seeks to open hearts through resonance. It does not try to hammer another person into a new shape. Instead, its influence is like that of a master gardener. In the rich, fertile soil of the connection you have so carefully prepared, you gently place a seed of feeling, a seed of truth, a seed of possibility, and then you trust the process. You are practicing the gentle art of planting seeds. You are now standing in an open field, unarmored and present. You have learned to speak from the vulnerable, authentic center of your being. This is where true power resides, but it is a power that operates under an entirely different set of laws than the one the ego understands. The ego believes in the power of force. The soul understands the power of life itself. This is the difference between being a blacksmith and being a gardener. And to become an influential communicator, you must learn to put down the hammer and pick up the seed. The blacksmith is the ego's model of influence. The blacksmith sees another person's mind or heart as a piece of stubborn, unformed iron. The goal is to heat it, beat it, and bend it into a shape that conforms to the blacksmith's own will. The tools of the blacksmith are force, pressure, and relentless hammering. In communication, these tools are argumentation, persuasion, debate, clever rhetoric, and emotional manipulation. The blacksmith's workshop is a loud, fiery, and violent place. The air is filled with the clang of metal on metal, the hiss of hot iron plunged into water. The aim is to conquer resistance, to overcome the other's will and impose your own. Recall what it feels like to be treated as a piece of iron. Someone tries to argue you into a belief, to persuade you with overwhelming logic, to shame you into changing your behavior. You can feel the heat and the pressure. Your natural response is to become harder, more resistant, more stubborn, even if, through sheer exhaustion, you relent and allow yourself to be reshaped. What is the result? You are bent, but you are also brittle. A resentment has been forged into your very substance. The blacksmith may have won the battle and reshaped the iron, but they have lost the spirit of the metal. Now, consider the way of the gardener. The gardener is the soul's model of influence. The gardener sees another person's mind and heart as a living, fertile plot of earth. This earth has its own integrity, its own history, its own unique potential. The gardener's goal is not to impose a shape, but to introduce a new possibility. The tools of the gardener are not force, but wisdom and care. They are patience, presence, and the offering of a single, viable seed. The gardener's art is subtle, quiet, and deeply respectful of the life process. It is an act of co-creation with nature, not a domination of it. This is the gentle art of planting seeds, and it is the highest form of influential communication. What then is a seed in the context of a conversation? A seed is not a command. It is not a fully formed argument. It is a tiny, living kernel of potential that, when placed in the right environment, can grow into something magnificent all on its own. A seed can be a question, but not just any question. A blacksmith's question is, why can't you see that you're wrong? It is a hammer blow. A gardener's question is, I wonder what might become possible if we looked at this from a different angle. Or, what does this situation invite you to learn? A question like this, offered gently into a space of trust, is a powerful seed. It doesn't provide an answer. It invites the other person's own mind to begin a quest for one. You are not giving them a plant. You are giving them a seed that will grow into their own unique plant. A seed can be a story or a metaphor. Instead of telling someone directly, you should be more compassionate, which is a blacksmith's command, you could share a brief story about a time you witnessed or experienced a profound act of compassion. You tell the story without a moral, without an agenda. You simply offer the narrative. The listener's subconscious mind will absorb the story's essence. It will bypass the ego's defenses and plant the seed of compassion in their heart, allowing them to draw their own conclusions and integrate the lesson in their own way. A seed can be a simple, vulnerable expression of your own truth. When you share from an unarmored place, when I hear that, I feel a sense of sadness because it reminds me of a time I felt very alone. You are not attacking or blaming. You are planting a seed of empathy. You are offering a glimpse into your own humanity, which activates the humanity in the other person. This seed can sprout into a profound understanding of how their actions and words affect the world around them, an understanding they could never have reached through argument. The art of planting seeds, however, is not just about the quality of the seed. A master gardener knows that the soil is everything. All of the skills you have been cultivating are the art of tending the soil of connection. Your resonant listening, your holding of space, your pregnant pauses, these are the acts of clearing the stones, warming the ground, and ensuring the soil is receptive. You cannot plant a seed in frozen, rocky earth. You must first create a safe, nurturing environment with your presence. After the seed is planted, the gardener's work becomes one of patience and trust. You do not dig up the seed every day to check on its progress. To do so would kill it. You must trust the process. You must let go of your attachment to the outcome. In conversation, this means you release the need for the other person to change immediately. You do not poke and prod them, asking, "So, have you thought about what I said? Are you going to change?" This is the anxious energy of the blacksmith, checking to see if the iron has bent yet. The gardener trusts that if the seed was right and the soil was ready, life will do its work in its own mysterious time. The change may not happen for a day, or a week, or a year. Your role is not to manage the timeline. Your role is simply to be a faithful gardener. This does not mean you are passive. While you do not force the growth, you can provide the conditions for it. You can water the seed with your continued presence. You can offer the sunshine of encouragement. If you notice a tiny sprout of new awareness in the other person, you can acknowledge it. I really value the way you're thinking through this. This acknowledgement, offered without fanfare, is like a ray of sun, encouraging the tender shoot to grow stronger. This path requires you to release the ego's obsession with control and visible results. It is a profound spiritual discipline. Your only responsibility is to the integrity of your own gardening to prepare the soil to the best of your ability, and to plant the most wholesome, life-affirming seed you have to offer. The rest is a sacred collaboration between the other person's soul and the universe itself. To embrace this is to experience a great liberation from the exhausting burden of trying to change people. But what happens when you have done your best? You have tended the soil with love. You have offered your most precious seeds of wisdom and vulnerability, and yet nothing grows. Or worse, what grows is twisted and thorny. You may have done everything right, and still, the garden does not flourish. When this happens, the conscious gardener is prompted to look at the only element they have not yet examined with radical honesty. They have looked at the soil, the water, the sun. Now, they must look at the seed itself. They must ask the difficult question, is there something in me that is contaminating the seeds I am planting? Perhaps the seeds of your wisdom are coated in the invisible dust of your own unhealed pain. Perhaps you are a wounded messenger, and your message, no matter how beautiful, is carrying the subtle poison of your past. You have become the gardener. You have learned the gentle art of planting seeds of truth and possibility in the receptive soil of a conscious connection. You have offered your wisdom, your vulnerability, and your presence with the purest of intentions. And yet, you may find that some of your seeds fail to thrive. You may notice a recurring pattern. Despite your best efforts, your communication sometimes produces the very opposite of what you intend. An attempt at intimacy creates distance. An offering of support is perceived as a criticism. A vulnerable sharing of your feelings triggers a defensive reaction. When this happens, when the garden repeatedly fails to flourish, the master gardener knows it is time to look away from the soil and to examine the seeds themselves. It is time to ask the most courageous question of all. Am I the messenger unknowingly contaminating the message? Am I speaking from a place of presence, or am I speaking from a wound? To understand this, imagine that your life force, your ability to communicate and connect, is a great river that flows from the center of your being out into the world. In our journey so far, we have worked on the quality of the river's flowets, clarity, its intention, its power. But now, we must travel upstream. We must journey back to the very source from which your river springs. This source is your past. It is the landscape of your history, your childhood, your formative experiences. And for almost every human being, this source has, at some point, been polluted. The pollutants are the residues of past hurts that were never fully processed, never fully healed. In the language of the soul, these are our wounds, our traumas. And trauma is not only the catastrophic event, the great tragedy, or the terrible abuse. Trauma, in its essence, is any experience that overwhelmed your capacity to cope and to stay present. It can be the small t trauma of being consistently ignored or misunderstood as a child. It can be the sharp pain of a first betrayal, the public shame of being ridiculed, the chronic, low-grade stress of growing up in a home filled with unspoken tension. When these experiences happen, especially when we are young and without the resources to process them, the intense emotional energy they generate does not simply vanish. It becomes frozen in time, stored within our nervous system, locked away in the tissues of our body. These frozen pockets of old pain of fear, of shame, of grief, of rage-ear, the pollutants at the source of your river. From this point forward, the river of your life force is contaminated. On the surface, the water may look clear. Your words may sound kind. Your intentions may seem noble. But the river carries an invisible toxicity. Your request for connection is tinged with the subtle, desperate vibration of your childhood fear of abandonment. Your attempt to set a boundary is laced with the disproportionate rage of having your boundaries violated in the past. Your expression of love is contaminated by a deep-seated belief that you are unworthy of it. You are a wounded messenger, and though you may not know it, the wound speaks louder than your words. The primary way this pollution manifests in the present is through the phenomenon of the trigger. A trigger is a present-day event, often quite minor, that happens to resonate with the specific vibrational frequency of an old wound. When the present moment matches the frequency of the frozen past, the old emotional charge is activated and released into your system with the force of the original experience. Your reaction is therefore completely disproportionate to the current situation. You are not just reacting to your partner's slightly critical tone of voice. You are reacting with all the accumulated pain of being criticized by a parent for 20 years. You are not just feeling annoyed that a friend was late. You are feeling the full, soul-crushing weight of being forgotten and abandoned as a child. To heal the messenger, you must first become aware of the wound. You must become an archaeologist of your own soul, learning to trace the echoes of the present back to their origin in the past. This is not an intellectual exercise. It is a gentle, compassionate inquiry held within the body where the wounds are stored. Let us begin this inquiry now. Think of a recurring, painful pattern in your relationships, a default program that seems to run automatically, causing you and others pain. Do you have a tendency to shut down and withdraw your affection when you feel criticized? Do you lash out with anger when you feel unheard? Do you immediately collapse into apology and people-pleasing at the first sign of someone's displeasure? Choose one of these patterns. Now, the next time this program runs, or even now, in the memory of it, bring your attention into your body. Where do you physically feel the sensation of that pattern? Is it a hollow ache in your stomach, a suffocating tightness in your throat that stops you from speaking your truth, a frantic, buzzing energy in your chest? This physical sensation is the key. It is the trail leading back to the source. Place a hand on that part of your body. Offer it your warmth and your presence. And then, gently, without forcing anything, ask your body this question: when is the first time I remember feeling this exact sensation? Do not search for the answer with your mind. Let the wisdom of your body offer up an echo, an image, a memory. It may be a vivid scene or just a fleeting feeling. Trust what comes. Perhaps your program of shutting down when criticized leads you back to a memory of being a small child, proudly showing a drawing to a parent who only pointed out the flaws, making you feel ashamed and foolish. In that moment you learned, to show my creativity is to be judged. It is safer to be invisible. And you have been running that safety program ever since. Perhaps your pattern of lashing out in anger when you feel unheard leads you to an echo of being a teenager in a family where you were constantly spoken over, where your opinions were dismissed as invalid. You learned, my voice is powerless. The only way to be heard is to shout. The only way to matter is through force. This is the sacred work of connecting the dots. It is the beginning of wisdom, the realization, oh, I am not reacting to my partner right now. I am reacting to my father. I am not angry at my friend for this small thing. I am feeling the rage of that powerless teenager. This awareness alone is profoundly liberating. It loosens the grip of the past. It creates a space between the stimulus and your reaction. In that space, you can make a new choice. To be clear, healing is not about changing or erasing the past. You cannot undo what was done. Healing is the process of lovingly discharging the frozen emotional energy from your body and your nervous system so that the past can finally become the past. It is about integrating the memory into your life story as a source of wisdom, rather than allowing it to remain an active source of pain that contaminates your present. The primary tool for this purification is the compassionate presence you have already been cultivating. It is the willingness to turn towards your own inner pain instead of running from it. When the feeling of that old abandonment wound arises, instead of immediately distracting yourself or blaming someone else, you learn to sit with it. You breathe into the hollow ache in your stomach. You hold yourself with the same tenderness you would offer to a frightened child, because that is precisely what is happening. A younger part of you is activated and scared. You can take this a step further. You can begin a dialogue with this wounded part of yourself. In your mind's eye, see that small child who was shamed, that teenager who was dismissed. See them in your inner temple. And then, from your wise adult self, the self that is here, now, on this journey, you offer them the words they so desperately needed to hear back then. To the shamed child, you whisper, your creation was beautiful. You are endlessly creative and worthy. I see you, and I love what you made. It was not your fault. To the enraged teenager you say, "I hear you. Your voice matters profoundly. I am listening now. You don't have to shout anymore. I will help you speak your truth with calm power." This is the act of reparenting your own inner world, of cleaning the pollutants at their very source. As you do this deep, courageous work, the river begins to run clear. The messenger begins to heal. You stop projecting your unhealed past onto the innocent canvas of the present. You can see and respond to people as they are, not as ghosts of people who hurt you long ago. Your communication becomes cleaner, more direct, and infinitely more loving. The seeds you plant are now pure. They are nourished not by the muddy waters of your trauma, but by the clear, life-giving stream of your authentic, present moment self. As you continue this journey of healing your personal wounds, the wound of abandonment, the wound of betrayal, the wound of unworthiness, you may start to perceive a single, common root from which all these individual pains grow. It is a fundamental wound, a core belief that is so deep and so pervasive that it forms the very foundation of the egoic self. It is the belief that you are separate. Separate from love, separate from others, separate from life itself. It is the agonizing feeling of being an isolated fragment in a vast, indifferent universe. This is the ultimate trauma, the original pain. And to reach the final stage of becoming a truly influential and healed communicator, we must now turn and face this great and painful illusion of separation. You have journeyed deep. You have traveled upstream, past the turbulent rapids of your present-day reactions, to the very source of your personal river. You have courageously examined the wounds that polluted its waters. You have sat with the abandoned child and the enraged teenager within you, offering them the compassion and presence they have always craved. The messenger is healing. The river is beginning to run clear. As you stand at this purified source, you may begin to sense a deeper truth, a geological formation that lies beneath the entire landscape of your personal history. It is the bedrock of all your individual wounds, the single foundational belief from which all suffering grows. It is the primal wound of the human condition, the illusion of separation. From the moment you were born, you were immersed in a unified field of experience. There was no you and no world. There was only a seamless whole, the warmth of your mother, the sensation of hunger, the feeling of light on your skin, all one flowing reality. Then, slowly, a division began. You were given a name. You were taught the words I and mine. You learned to distinguish your body from the chair it sat upon, your thoughts from the thoughts of others. This process of creating a separate self, an ego, is a necessary and functional stage of human development. It allows you to navigate the physical world, to create, to relate. The tragedy is that we mistake this functional tool for our fundamental identity. We forget that the I is a temporary construct, and we come to believe that we are this isolated, separate self. We believe we are a skin-encapsulated ego, a lonely fragment of consciousness, adrift in a vast, external universe. This is the great forgetting, and it is the source of all our fear. An entity that perceives itself as separate will inevitably perceive itself as vulnerable. In a universe of countless other people, other forces, other events, the separate self feels constantly under threat. Its primary driving forces become self-preservation, defense, and accumulation. It must protect its borders. It must hoard resources. It must compete with other separate selves for love, for status, for survival. The entire operating system of the ego is us versus them. This is the root of all judgment, all conflict, and all violence. To heal at the deepest level, we must see through this illusion. We must remember the truth of our being. The most ancient wisdom traditions have all pointed to this same simple truth, often using a powerful metaphor. You are not the wave. You are the ocean. Imagine yourself as a single wave rising from the sea. You have a unique form, a specific height and shape. You have a beginning, a lifespan, and an end as you crash upon the shore. From your perspective as a wave, the world is filled with other, separate waves. Some are bigger, some are smaller. Some travel alongside you, while others seem to move against you. You compare yourself to them. You may feel proud of your size or envious of another's perfect crest. You may fear the large wave behind you or feel annoyed by the small, choppy waves in front. This is the reality of the ego, the life of the separate self. It is a life of comparison, competition, and fear, because the wave knows that its existence is temporary and fragile. But what happens if we shift our perspective? What is the wave made of? What is its fundamental substance? The wave is, and has always been, pure ocean. It is not separate from the ocean. It is a momentary, unique expression of the ocean. Its power, its movement, its very existence is derived from the whole. It is the ocean, expressing itself for a time, as a wave. You are not your body, your name, your personality, your story. These are the temporary characteristics of your wave form. You are the ocean. You are the vast, timeless, undivided consciousness that is the substance of all reality. The same consciousness that is looking out through my eyes is the consciousness looking out through yours. The aliveness that animates your body is the same aliveness that animates the tree outside your window and the stars in the night sky. There is only one life, one consciousness, one ocean, expressing itself in a glorious, infinite diversity of forms. This is not a beautiful poem or a hopeful philosophy. It is the nature of reality. And when you begin to live from this recognition, even for brief moments, the entire purpose of communication is transformed. The concept of the other begins to dissolve. The person sitting across from you is no longer a separate entity to be managed, impressed, or defended against. They are another wave on the same ocean. They are you, in a different form. Their joy is not separate from your joy. Their pain is not separate from your pain. To hurt them is, quite literally, to pollute a part of the very ocean of which you are made. To heal them is to heal yourself. Communication ceases to be a transaction to get something, to get approval, agreement, or love. The desperate neediness of the separate self begins to fall away, because as the ocean, you are already whole. You lack nothing. Communication then becomes an act of recognition and celebration. It is an opportunity for the ocean in you to acknowledge and commune with the ocean in them. You speak not to fortify the walls of your separate wave, but to remind the other wave of its own oceanic nature. Empathy is no longer a skill you have to practice. It becomes an effortless state of being. You feel another's pain so deeply because you recognize it is a disturbance in the same field of consciousness that you inhabit. Your impulse to respond with compassion is as natural and automatic as your own hand reaching out to soothe a pain in your own body. You can experience this truth directly, right now. Pause and feel the sense of aliveness in your hands, a subtle, tingling, vibrant energy. Hold that feeling. Now, if there is a plant in the room, look at it. Look past its shape and color, and try to sense its own quiet, persistent aliveness. It is a different rhythm, a different texture, but can you feel that it is made of the same fundamental stuff as the aliveness in your hands? Now, think of someone you love. Bring their image to mind. Can you sense, beyond their personality and your history together, the unique spark of their aliveness? Can you feel, in your heart, that your aliveness and their aliveness are not two things, but one? They are two waves, but one ocean. As this felt sense of unity grows within you, your relationship to disagreement and conflict will be revolutionized. A disagreement is no longer a battle between your wave and their wave. It is no longer a war to be won. Instead, it is perceived as a turbulence within the single ocean of your shared reality. It is an area of dissonance in the unified field. The impulse is no longer to attack or defeat the other, for you know there is no other. The impulse is to restore harmony to the whole. A conflict becomes a sacred invitation and opportunity to engage in a profound alchemical process. The process of transmuting the raw, chaotic energy of disagreement into the gold of a higher, more integrated dialogue. You are the ocean, aware of your own vast, interconnected nature. You have healed the primary wounds at your source, and your river of communication flows with increasing clarity and compassion. But the ocean is not always placid. Storms arise, currents clash, and in your life, you will inevitably encounter disagreement, friction, and conflict. From the perspective of the separate self, the wave, a disagreement, is a threat. It is a sign that something is wrong, a battle of wills that must be won. The goal is to prove your wave superior, to make the other wave submit to your truth. This is the path of struggle, of endless war, of perpetual separation. But you are learning to see with new eyes. From the perspective of the ocean, a disagreement is not a threat. It is an area of intense, creative energy. It is a point of turbulence in the unified field that signals an opportunity for evolution. It is a sacred invitation from the universe to expand your own consciousness. A disagreement is the alchemist's lead. It is dense, heavy, and chaotic, thick with the energies of fear, misunderstanding, and righteousness. The unconscious communicator sees this lead and discards it, calling it toxic or negative. They avoid it, suppress it, or try to smash it with the hammer of their own will. The conscious communicator, the spiritual alchemist, does the opposite. They revere the lead. They see its potential. They know that within this raw, volatile material lies the hidden possibility of gold. The gold of a deeper understanding, a more resilient connection, and a truth that is larger than what either party possessed alone. To engage in this transmutation, you cannot remain on the battlefield of argument. You must move the entire process into a sacred vessel, a crucible capable of containing the heat of the conflict without shattering. This crucible is the container of conscious presence that you have learned to build. It is the deliberate act of transforming a potential fight into a conscious dialogue. This transformation begins with a few crucial, intentional steps. First, you must acknowledge the turbulence. Before you dive into the content of the disagreement, you name the energy that is present. This is not an accusation. It is a shared observation. You might say, "I can feel a lot of tension between us around this issue." Or, "It's clear we see this very differently, and I feel a sense of distance growing between us that I don't want." In saying this, you are not placing blame. You are turning you and the other person into allies who are looking at the turbulence together, rather than being enemies who are embodying the turbulence. Second, you must consciously and clearly state your intention. This is perhaps the most powerful step in the entire process. You are setting the rules of engagement for the soul, not the ego. You say, "My intention for this conversation is not to win or to prove you wrong. My intention is to understand your world as fully as I can and to help you understand mine. I care more about our connection than I do about this issue." This declaration is a powerful spell. It changes the vibrational field of the interaction from one of competition to one of collaboration. It is a promise that you will not wield your words as weapons. Third, you must ground yourself in your body. The energy of disagreement is activating. It will trigger your nervous system's fight or flight response. Before engaging, take a moment. Feel your feet firmly planted on the earth. Take one slow, deep breath, feeling it move all the way down into your belly. In doing so, you are anchoring yourself in the calm, steady presence of your adult self, rather than allowing the volatile, reactive energy of a past wound to take the lead. You are the alchemist, calm and centered before the volatile elements, ready to begin the great work. Now the transmutation process can begin. The first phase is always reception. You must invite the other person to pour their lead into the crucible first. You say, "Please, tell me everything. I will not interrupt. I just want to listen and understand." As they speak, You deploy all your skills. You hold space. You listen resonantly. You feel the energy behind their words, the pain, the fear, the unmet needs. You do not defend. You do not rebut. You do not even mentally prepare your response. Your entire being is focused on one task, receiving them fully. This act of deep, uninterrupted listening is profoundly disarming. It is the quenching water that begins to cool the heated lead. When they have finished, the next stage is validation. Before you share your perspective, you must show them that theirs has been received. You reflect back what you heard, not just their words, but the essence of their experience. So, if I am hearing you right, when I do X, you feel Y, because it connects to a feeling of being disrespected. Is that accurate? Validation does not mean you agree with them. It simply means you can see how it makes sense from their perspective. You are holding up a clean mirror to them. When a person feels truly seen and validated, their defenses soften. The lead in the crucible becomes malleable. Only now, after you have fully received and validated them, do you begin the third stage, sharing your truth. You add your own ingredients to the crucible, but you do so with immense care, using the vulnerable, non-aggressive language of your own experience. You use I statements. When that situation unfolds, my experience is different. I feel a sense of fear, because the story I tell myself is Z. You are not throwing your truth at them as a counterattack. You are gently placing your experience alongside theirs within the shared, sacred container. Now both sets of raw material, both perspectives, both feelings, are present together in the crucible of your shared presence. You are no longer on opposite sides of a battlefield. You are sitting side by side, looking together at the complex, steaming contents of the vessel. From this shared vantage point, the magic can happen. The gold that emerges from this process can take many forms. Sometimes, in holding both perspectives at once, a brilliant third solution appears, one that neither of you could have seen from your fortified positions. At other times, the gold is not a solution at all, but a profound, mutual understanding of each other's inner worlds. You may not agree on the issue, but you now understand the wounds, the fears, and the needs that inform each other's position. This creates a deep, unshakable compassion that transcends the disagreement itself. The connection is not only preserved, it is deepened. Even the act of agreeing to disagree, when done from this place of mutual love and respect, is a form of gold. You have chosen the harmony of the relationship over the hollow victory of the ego. This alchemical process of transmuting disagreement into dialogue is one of the highest arts of conscious living. It has the power to heal relationships, to dissolve ancestral resentments, and to create profound intimacy. Yet, it is often sabotaged. There is a force within us that resists this beautiful, healing process with all its might. It is a storyteller, a myth-maker, that is deeply invested in casting us as the righteous hero or the innocent victim in every conflict. It clings to its narrative as if its life depends on it because, in a way, it does. To engage in this alchemical work, we must be willing to face this final guardian of our separation. We must be willing to witness and see through the ego's last stand. You have walked the path of the spiritual alchemist. You have learned to transmute the lead of disagreement into the gold of connection. You have built the sacred vessel of presence, and you have practiced the subtle art of listening, of validating, and of speaking your truth from a place of non-aggression. This is a profound and transformative practice. Yet you may still find yourself, in the heat of a difficult moment, being hijacked. You may find that despite your best intentions, you are suddenly pulled back into the old patterns of blame, defense, and righteousness. There is one final, formidable gatekeeper that stands between you and true freedom in communication. It is the most subtle, most powerful, and most fiercely protected aspect of the ego. It is the story of me. To understand this, you must first become aware of the storyteller. Right now, in this moment, there is a voice in your head. It is the narrator that never sleeps. It is constantly commenting, interpreting, judging, and weaving a narrative around the raw data of your experience. This voice is the weaver of the story, and its sole purpose is to maintain the existence of its central character, the entity it calls me. The ego, the separate self, has no substance of its own. It is a ghost in the machine. To give itself a sense of continuity and reality, it must tell itself a story. This story is its identity. It is a tapestry woven from threads of memory, often selectively edited, conditioned beliefs, and perceived injustices. The story explains who I am, why I am this way, what has been done to me, and what I deserve. Without this ongoing narrative, the ego fears it will dissolve into nothingness. And so, it clings to its story with the desperation of a drowning man clinging to a piece of driftwood. In every interaction, in every conflict, the ego is not truly responding to the present moment. It is trying to make the present moment fit into its pre-existing script. The character of me is a master of disguise, but it has a few favorite, highly addictive roles that it loves to play. To become free, you must learn to recognize the costumes. The first, and perhaps most seductive, is the role of the victim. The storyline of the victim is, life is hard, and it happens to me. People are untrustworthy, and they always let me down. I am sensitive and misunderstood. The world is unfair, and I am helpless against its cruelty. The secret payoff for playing the victim is immense. The victim gets to be morally superior, blameless, and innocent. It garners sympathy. It absolves the ego of all responsibility for its own happiness and circumstances. In a conversation, the victim is a master of the complaint. They will speak at length about their suffering, but they will subtly resist any real solutions, because a solution would mean the end of their cherished, identity-giving story. When you communicate with someone playing the victim, you may feel an urge to help or save them, but you will also feel a subtle draining of your life force, as if you are pouring your energy into a bottomless pit. A role that often appears alongside the victim is the hero, or the savior. The hero's storyline is, I am the strong one. I must fix everyone's problems. People depend on me, and without my help, they would crumble. My needs are not important. I must sacrifice myself for others. The payoff for the hero is a powerful sense of importance and control. Their self-worth is derived from being indispensable. In communication, the hero is the one who gives constant, unsolicited advice. They interrupt others to offer solutions. They feel anxious or frustrated when their help is not accepted. They mistake their controlling behavior for love, and in their relentless focus on fixing everyone else, they become completely disconnected from their own needs and their own inner world. They are often exhausted, resentful, and secretly lonely, because no one is saving the savior. Then there is the formidable character of the judge, or the critic. The storyline of the judge is, I know the right way to do things. The world is filled with incompetence, laziness, and flawed thinking. My standards are high, and almost no one ever meets them. The payoff for the judge is a feeling of superiority and safety. By finding fault in the outside world, the ego protects itself from the terrifying prospect of looking at its own flaws. Its righteousness is a thick stone wall. In communication, the judge is fluent in the languages of criticism, sarcasm, and sweeping generalizations. They are formidable debaters, experts at poking holes in arguments. Their communication is not aimed at connection, but at proving a point and maintaining their position of intellectual or moral superiority. It is a cold, lonely, and rigid role. And there is the subtle, romantic role of the special one, or the misunderstood genius. The story is, my experience is unique, my pain is deeper, my insights are more profound than anyone else's. No one can truly understand me. The payoff is a powerful sense of identity forged from this very separateness. It can be a comfortable and even beautiful prison. In communication, the special one may be withdrawn, or they may speak in ways that subtly emphasize their unique perspective, creating a barrier of exceptionalism that keeps true intimacy at bay. They feel a sense of pride in their isolation, not realizing it is the very source of their suffering. Victim, hero, judge, special one. These are just a few of the ego's favorite costumes. You may play one of these roles consistently, or you may switch between them depending on the situation. The roles themselves are not the problem. The problem is that you have become so lost in playing the role that you have forgotten who you are. This is the great unmasking. You, the conscious, aware presence reading these words, are not the character. You are the actor. Imagine a brilliant actor who has taken on a challenging role. They have immersed themselves in the character, so completely inhabiting its history, its mannerisms, its emotional landscape, that they have forgotten they are an actor on a stage. They believe, with every fiber of their being, that they are the character. This is the human condition. You are not the victim. You are the pure, silent awareness that is watching the character of the victim play its part on the stage of your mind. The practice of liberation is the practice of disidentification. It is the act of stepping back from the stage and taking a seat in the audience of your own mind. The practice is simple. When you find yourself in a state of emotional reactivity, when you feel the pull of a familiar, painful story, you pause and you ask, "What story is my mind telling me right now?" You simply notice it. The story is that my boss doesn't respect me and I'm going to be fired. Hello. Then you ask, what role is the character of me playing in this story? You name the character. There is the victim, feeling powerless and wronged, and there is the judge, condemning my boss as unfair. The act of naming the role creates an immediate sense of space and objectivity. You are no longer enmeshed in the drama. You are observing it. Finally, you perform the most crucial step. You remember who you truly are. You gently shift your attention away from the noisy drama on the stage and back to the silent watcher in the audience. You remember that you are the vast, silent, peaceful awareness in which the entire play is unfolding. You are not the character. You are not the story. You are not the emotions. You are the space for all of it. You are the actor who has finally remembered that the play is not real. From this place of remembrance, you are free. You are no longer bound by the character's scripted lines. The victim doesn't have to complain. The hero doesn't have to offer advice. You, the free actor, can look at the present moment with fresh eyes and choose how to respond authentically. You can improvise. You can speak a new line, one that is not born from a dusty old script, but from the living, breathing truth of the present moment. When you begin this practice of disidentification, the ego will feel like it is dying. And in a sense, it is. The false, story-based self is beginning to dissolve. It will likely fight back. It will create more intense drama, more compelling stories, to try and lure you, the actor, back onto the stage. It will tell you that without your story, you are nothing. This is its last stand. Your practice is to meet this panic and this resistance with the same calm, loving, spacious awareness. You simply watch the ego's death throes without getting pulled into them. As the suffocating grip of the story of me loosens, something that has been there all along, obscured and silent, begins to shine through. It is your true self, the self beyond all stories. It is the radiant, peaceful, and whole consciousness that is your essential nature. And when you begin to communicate from this place, you are no longer broadcasting the noisy, needy, static-filled frequency of your ego's drama. For the first time, perhaps, another signal can finally be heard, clear and true. It is the unique, pure, and beautiful note that only you can contribute to the universe. It is your authentic frequency. You have walked through the fire of self-inquiry. You have stood firm as the old, brittle structures of the ego need to be right. The addiction to your own stories have begun to crumble and fall away. In the quiet space that follows this dissolution, you may feel a sense of emptiness, a vast, open stillness. The ego will tell you that this is oblivion, that you have lost your personality, that you are becoming nothing. Do not believe it. This emptiness is not a void, it is a clearing. It is the sacred silence of the symphony hall just before the music begins. You have not lost yourself. You have simply quieted the noise so that you can finally hear your own music. This music is your authentic frequency. It is the pure, unique, resonant note of your soul. It is the essential vibration of your being, the singular quality that only you can bring to the world. It was always there, drowned out by the static of your fears and the clamor of your ego's stories. Now, in the stillness, you can begin to feel it. It is not a thought you can think or a concept you can grasp. It is a felt sense, a current of aliveness, a signature tone that is the very essence of who you are beyond all labels and all stories. To understand this, imagine that the universe is a grand, infinite symphony. Every being in existence, every star, every blade of grass, every human heart is a unique instrument playing a single, perfect note. The symphony is the totality of all these notes, woven together in a complex, ever-evolving harmony. For most of your life, you have been a cello trying desperately to sound like a violin. You looked at the violins and saw that they were praised for their high, soaring notes. You were taught that the violin's sound was the sound of success, of acceptance, of love. And so, you tightened your strings to an unnatural tension, you held your bow at an awkward angle, and you spent all of your energy trying to replicate a frequency that was not your own. The result was not music. It was a strained, painful, dissonant screech. You were exhausted, you felt like a failure, and you added a note of discord to the symphony around you. This is the state of inauthenticity. It is the tragedy of a being trying to be anything other than what it is. The journey we have taken has been the process of you, the cello, slowly realizing the futility of this struggle. You have let go of the ambition to be a violin. You have released the tension in your strings. You have allowed yourself to simply be what you are, a cello. And in that surrender, in that acceptance, you pick up your bow, draw it across your strings without effort, and for the first time, you produce a note. It is a deep, rich, resonant C-sharp. It is a note that only you can play. It is your authentic frequency. You do not have to try to make this note powerful. Its power is inherent in its truth. It is effortless, because it is who you are. And the moment you sound this true note, the entire symphony shifts around you. The violins and the flutes and the drums suddenly have a new, beautiful harmony to play against. Your note was the one they were missing. In sounding your own truth, you have not only liberated yourself, you have served the whole. Your purpose in this life is not to become a better version of someone else. It is not to copy the notes of the people you admire. Your purpose is to find, to trust, and to sound your own unique note as clearly, as purely, and as beautifully as you can. This is your sacred offering to the world. To withhold it is to rob the symphony of its potential fullness. How then do you recognize this frequency in your daily life? It is not as esoteric as it sounds. Your body is the ultimate resonance chamber, and it gives you constant feedback. You learn to recognize your authentic frequency by following the feeling of expansion. Think about your life. What activities cause you to lose all track of time? When are you so absorbed in what you are doing that the storyteller in your head simply vanishes? What subjects do you love to talk about? Not to impress others, but for the sheer joy of the exploration. What people or environments leave you feeling more energized and more yourself than when you arrived? These are your clues. These are the moments when your activities and your surroundings are in harmony with your core frequency. In these moments, you will feel an unmistakable sense of expansion in your body, a warmth in your chest, an ease in your breath, a feeling of flow and rightness. This feeling is your compass. It is your soul saying, yes, this, more of this. Conversely, You learn your frequency by noticing the feeling of contraction. When do you feel drained, bored, or heavy? When do you feel a sense of resistance, of having to force yourself to do something? When do you find yourself playing a role, wearing a mask, carefully managing your words to fit in or gain approval? These are the moments when you are trying to play a note that is not yours. The feeling of contraction, of tightness, of fatigue, is your inner guidance system telling you, with loving clarity, "Number, this is not you. This is out of tune with your soul." Oh, the great secret is that sounding your authentic note is not an act of striving. It is an act of surrender. It is about letting go of all the ideas of who you should be, so that you can relax into who you are. It is the cello letting go of its violin envy and discovering the profound, effortless beauty of its own cello-ness. When you begin to speak and act from this authentic frequency, your communication becomes magnetic. It develops a quality of integrity and weight that is palpable. People may not be able to articulate it, but they will feel the truth of your presence. They will trust you more deeply, not because of clever techniques, but because your words and your energy are finely congruent. You are no longer broadcasting a beautiful script over a channel of static. Your words and your music are one. This is when your communication moves beyond mere expression and becomes a creative force. The words you speak, carried on the clear, coherent signal of your authentic frequency, are no longer just describing your reality. They are actively organizing it. Like a tuning fork that causes nearby strings to vibrate at the same frequency, your authentic presence begins to call forth experiences, people, and opportunities that are in harmonic resonance with your own soul. You cease to be a passive victim of circumstance and you begin to take your place as a conscious artist of your life. You are learning to co-create your reality, one authentic vibration at a time. You are now standing in the center of your being, sounding the pure, clear note of your authentic frequency. The journey to this point has been an inward one-ear journey of silencing, healing, and remembering. Now, from this place of centered power, we turn our gaze outward again, not with the eyes of a passive observer, but with the eyes of an artist. You are about to discover that your communication, broadcast on the signal of your true self, does not simply describe reality, it creates it. We have been taught to see reality as a solid, fixed, and external thing. We believe there is a pre-existing world out there, and our words are merely labels we use to talk about it. This is the perception of the separate self, and it is a fundamental limitation. The deeper truth, understood by mystics and now being explored by quantum physics, is that reality is not a static object. It is a fluid field of infinite potential, a shimmering quantum soup of possibility. And this field responds to, and is organized by, the focus of consciousness. Our conversations are one of the most powerful tools we have for focusing consciousness. The shared stories we tell, the agreements we make, the visions we articulate, these are not just commentaries on the game of life. They are the very rules by which the game is played. Concepts like money, government, marriage, and justice do not exist as physical objects in nature. They are powerful realities that we have collectively spoken into being. They are intricate patterns held in place by a constant, ongoing, shared conversation. You, as a conscious communicator, are a weaver at a great cosmic loom. The loom holds the infinite threads of potential, and the tapestry being woven is the reality of the world. Your every thought, every intention, and every word is a thread in your hand. For most of history, humanity has been weaving unconsciously. In a state of fear and separation, we have woven a chaotic and tangled tapestry. The threads are snarled with blame, knotted with resentment, and stained with the colors of lack and limitation. We jab our needles into the fabric defensively, creating patterns of conflict, division, and suffering. Then we stand back, look at the mess we have made, and call it the way the world is, believing ourselves to be mere victims of its ugliness, never realizing we are its authors. To become a co-creator of reality is to awaken to the truth that you are a weaver. It is to take hold of your thread with conscious intent. And a conscious conversation is the sacred act of two or more weavers coming together, choosing a section of the tapestry and agreeing, here, in this space between us, let us weave something beautiful. Let us create a new pattern. This is not a metaphor for positive thinking. It is the description of a creative technology. How do you practice this? First, you must shift your focus from the problem to the vision. Unconscious conversations are almost always about what is wrong. We analyze problems, we dissect past hurts, we complain about what is lacking. This is like weavers obsessively studying the knots and snarls in the tapestry. In doing so, they only reinforce the dysfunctional pattern with the energy of their attention. The co-creative weaver does the opposite. They acknowledge the snarl, and then they turn their full creative attention to the empty space next to it. In a relationship, instead of having yet another conversation about a recurring fight, the weavers might say, let's put that aside for a moment. Let's use our words to weave a picture of the partnership we truly want to create. What does it feel like? How do we treat each other? What is possible for us? They begin to articulate a shared vision, not as a distant fantasy, but as an emergent reality. Second, you must learn to speak as if. This is a subtle but crucial shift in the tense of your language and the tense of your heart. An unconscious conversation speaks of desired things in the future tense, which only reinforces their absence in the present. I wish we could be more loving. The co-creative conversation speaks of the vision in the present, emergent tense. I can feel us creating a space of such incredible love and respect between us. It's happening now. Can you feel the difference? The first statement comes from a place of lack. The second comes from a place of active creation. It invokes the feeling of the reality and begins to draw it into form. It speaks the pattern into the loom. Third, and most importantly, the co-creative act requires energetic agreement. It is not enough to simply say the same positive words. The weavers must align their authentic frequencies. The conversation becomes a form of shared, focused meditation. As you describe the vision of a more peaceful family or a more collaborative workplace, you are not just talking about it. You are taking the time to feel it in your body, right now. You are generating the vibrational signature of that reality within your own being, and you are doing it together. This shared, coherent frequency is the magnetic force that begins to organize the field of potential around you. It is the loom's command to the threads. Arrange yourselves in this pattern. When you engage in this kind of co-creative dialogue, you are performing a potent act of magic. You are no longer just a resident of your reality. You are its architect. You and your partner can consciously weave a pattern of deeper intimacy. You and your colleagues can weave a new reality of trust and innovation. A community can come together and weave a future of sustainability and mutual support. The small, beautiful patch of tapestry that you weave in a single conscious conversation does not exist in isolation. The fabric of reality is a single, unbroken whole. Your intentional act of weaving a pattern of peace sends a coherent, harmonic ripple out through the entire tapestry. It subtly changes the vibrational environment. Someone may come into your home or your workplace, feel the harmony you have woven, and leave with the seed of that harmony planted in their own heart, inspired to weave a similar pattern in their own life. Your small, local act of creation can have non-local and unforeseeable positive consequences. This act of weaving, of sending patterns of intention and energy out into the world, is governed by a precise and immutable law of the universe. Every thread you choose, every pattern you initiate, is a cause that will inevitably create an effect. The energy you send out from your loom will, in some form, at some time, find its way back to you. The design you contribute to the great tapestry of life will become the design of your own lived reality. This is the law of karma, and specifically, the profound and inescapable karma of communication. You are a co-creator, a conscious weaver at the great loom of reality. You have learned that your words, broadcast on the clear frequency of your authentic self, are not passive descriptions but active agents of creation. As you stand in this newfound power, you must come to understand the final, immutable law that governs all creation. Every cause has an effect. Every action generates an equal and opposite reaction. This is the universal principle of karma, and it applies to our communication with the same unerring precision as it applies to the planets orbiting the sun. The word karma has been widely misunderstood in the modern world. We have been taught to see it as a system of cosmic reward and punishment, administered by some divine, judgmental scorekeeper who weighs our good deeds against our bad ones. This is a childish and fear-based interpretation that misses the profound, impersonal elegance of the law. Karma is not a moral law. It is a law of physics. It is a law of energetic resonance and return. The universe does not judge you. It simply and flawlessly mirrors you. It does not punish your anger or reward your kindness. It simply reflects the energy of your anger or kindness back to you, so that you may experience the nature of your own creation. To understand this is to move from being a fearful subject of a cosmic king to being a responsible citizen of an intelligent, responsive universe. The most effective way to grasp the karma of communication is to imagine that every communicative act is a boomerang you throw out into the unified field of consciousness. Every word, every thought, every intention, every silence each is a boomerang with a unique shape, weight, and spin. Once you throw it, it travels out into the world, has an effect, and then, without fail, it begins its return journey to you. The universe is a perfect, frictionless medium for this return. There is no escaping it. What you send out is what you get back, not because you are being punished, but because you are standing at the center of your own energetic echo. Let us examine the different kinds of boomerangs you throw every day. First, there is the most obvious, the karma of the spoken word. These are the boomerangs you can see and hear. When you speak words of harsh judgment or biting criticism to another, you are crafting and throwing a sharp, jagged boomerang. In that moment, your ego may feel a sense of satisfaction or superiority. The boomerang may fly out and cut its intended target, causing them to feel diminished or hurt. But you must understand, the journey is only half over. That same sharp, jagged energy is now arcing through the field, and its return flight path is aimed directly at you. You have energized the frequency of judgment in your own reality, and so you will find yourself in situations where you feel judged by others. You will attract critical people into your life. You will perceive the world as a harsh and judgmental place. You are simply experiencing the return flight of your own boomerang. When you speak words of deceit, when you lie, manipulate, or speak half-truths to get your way, you are throwing a warped, unbalanced boomerang. It wobbles erratically through the air. It may achieve a short-term goal for you, but its energy is one of confusion and distortion. And so, the world that is reflected back to you will be one of confusion and distortion. You will find it difficult to trust others. You will feel that you can never get a clear picture of what is real. You will be surrounded by a fog of mistrust, the very fog you created with your own deceptive words. Conversely, when you speak words that are aligned with your soul, words of genuine encouragement, heartfelt validation, and unconditional compassion, you are throwing a smooth, aerodynamic, perfectly balanced boomerang. It flies out and carries a vibration of healing and support to another. It lifts them up, and then, on its return journey, it brings that same uplifting, supportive energy back into your life. You find yourself experiencing grace. You receive kindness from unexpected sources. You feel held and supported by the world around you. You are simply receiving the echo of the support you have already given. Deeper than the spoken word is the karma of intention. This is the invisible spin you put on the boomerang. It is, in fact, the most critical component of its flight. The universe does not respond to your words. It responds to the energy, the intention that your words ride upon. You can say all the right things, use all the politically correct and spiritually evolved language. But if the intention in your heart is one of contempt, of superiority, of a desire to control, that is the spin the universe registers. You can say to someone, "I'm just trying to help you," but if your inner intention is, "I need to fix this person because their messiness makes me uncomfortable," then the boomerang you have thrown is not one of help, but of control and rejection. And so, the reality that comes back to you will be one in which you feel controlled or rejected by others. This is why people who seem to be good on the surface can still experience so much suffering. Their actions may be impeccable, but their intentions are polluted. They are throwing boomerangs that look beautiful but are spinning with a hidden negative force. The practice, then, is to become an archaeologist of your own intentions. Before you speak, especially in a difficult situation, you must pause and ask, what is the true intention behind what I am about to say? Am I seeking to connect or to control? To heal or to be right? To serve or to be seen as serving? Be ruthlessly honest with yourself. It is better to speak a clumsy truth from a pure heart than a polished lie from a place of ego. The universe always responds to the heart. Finally, there is the most subtle and often overlooked aspect, the karma of silence. We think that karma is only created through our actions, but it is also created through our inactions. Silence is not a neutral void. It is a choice, and it creates powerful karmic boomerangs. When you witness an injustice, when you see someone being treated unkindly, when you have the opportunity to speak a word of truth that could prevent harm, and you choose to remain silent out of fear or social convenience, you have created a powerful karma. You have thrown a boomerang of absence. You have chosen your own comfort over the well-being of the whole. And so, the universe will reflect this back to you. You may find that in your own moment of great need, when you desperately need someone to speak up for you, support is mysteriously absent. The world simply mirrors your own choice back to you. Conversely, think of the silences we have practiced in this journey. When you hold a deep, compassionate, non-judgmental space for someone who is suffering, allowing them to pour out their heart without interruption, you are creating one of the most beautiful karmas imaginable. You are throwing a boomerang of sanctuary. You are sending out the powerful vibration of safety, acceptance, and peace. And so, when you are lost in your own storm, you will find that the universe provides you with sanctuary. A safe person, a peaceful place, a moment of grace will appear. You are simply receiving the return flight of the peace you have already offered. Look at your life now. The recurring patterns, the quality of your relationships, the kinds of experiences that seem to find you again and again. Do not see them as random fortune or misfortune. See your life as a karmic printout. It is the sum total of the echoes of the boomerangs you have been throwing for years, perhaps for lifetimes. This is not a cause for guilt or despair. It is a cause for empowerment. For if your past communications have co-created your present reality, it means your present communications can and will co-create your future reality. The point of power is always, and only, now. You cannot call back the boomerangs that are already in the air. The consequences of past actions must be allowed to play out and return. Your work is to meet them with grace and understanding, knowing that you are the one who threw them. But in this very moment, you can choose to throw a new boomerang. Right now, you can choose to forgive someone who has wronged you, throwing a boomerang of mercy. You can choose to speak a word of encouragement to someone who is struggling, throwing a boomerang of hope. You can choose to be honest about your own feelings, throwing a boomerang of authenticity. Each of these new throws begins to chart a new future. Each one begins to call forth a new reality. How does one step off this wheel of cause and effect entirely? The boomerang is thrown by the hand of the ego, the separate self that believes it needs to get something from the world or do something to it. When you learn to rest as your true nature, as the ocean, not the wave, as the silent awareness, not the story the thrower of the boomerang dissolves, actions will still arise through your form, but they are no longer your actions. They are the spontaneous, intelligent, and harmonious actions of the universe itself. They create no binding personal karma because there is no personal agenda attached to them. They are like the flight of a bird, leaving no trace in the sky. This is the state of true freedom. Until that state becomes your permanent reality, the practice is simple and clear. In every moment you are about to communicate, you stand at a crossroads. You hold in your hand the potential for 1,000 different boomerangs. You can choose the jagged boomerang of your ego's fear and judgment, or you can choose the smooth, graceful boomerang of your soul's compassion and truth. Know that whatever you choose to throw, you are choosing your own future. This deep understanding of karma leads us to a final, beautiful, and profoundly simple conclusion about the nature of influence. When you truly grasp that what you send out is what you will receive, the most intelligent, logical, and self-loving way to live becomes blindingly obvious. You realize that the act of cultivating your own inner peace and then communicating from that state is not, in fact, a selfish act. It is the most generous and impactful act you can possibly perform. Your inner peace becomes your greatest gift to the world, a gift that inevitably returns to you as a peaceful and harmonious outer world. It is the completion of a perfect, sacred circle. We have come to the end of a long and winding path, a journey that has led us deep into the inner world. We began with the common desire to have more influence, to make our words matter, to be heard and understood in a noisy world. The conventional approach to this desire is to look outward to learn techniques of persuasion, to master rhetoric, to build a more charismatic personality. It is the path of adding, of polishing, of becoming a more skillful actor on the world stage. The journey we have taken together has been the opposite. It has been a radical process of subtraction, of unlearning, of dismantling the very actor you thought you were. We have come to understand a profound truth. True influence is not a strategy you employ, but a resonance you emit. It is not an outward action you perform, but the natural, unavoidable consequence of an inner state of being. It is the completion of a sacred circle that begins and ends within the silent temple of your own heart. To grasp this fully, let us use one final metaphor. Imagine your life, your consciousness, is a vast, still lake, and you are a single stone. For most of your life, you have believed that your purpose is to be thrown, to make a great splash, to send mighty waves crashing against a distant shore. You have focused all your energy on the outward trajectory, on the impact you will have out there. But the greatest influence is not in the throwing, it is in the dropping. The entire journey of this audiobook has been about this single courageous act, the willingness to let yourself drop. It is the decision to cease all outward striving and to begin the descent inward. You drop through the turbulent, choppy surface of the chattering mind, the ego's stories, the endless commentary. You sink deeper through the murky, cold layers of unhealed wounds and unprocessed emotions, the pollutants from your past. You continue to fall through layers of belief and identity until you finally come to rest in the silent, clear, undisturbed depths of the lakebed. This is the silent well. This is your connection to the ocean of being. This is the discovery of your authentic frequency. This is the cultivation of inner peace. This is the only action that truly matters. The moment you, the stone, come to rest in this profound inner stillness, the circle of influence begins. The first ripple is generated. This ripple is not a word. It is not an action. It is your very presence. Your nervous system, now calm and coherent, begins to emanate a frequency of peace. The very atmosphere around you changes. You have become a silent, walking field of stillness. People may not know why, but they feel more at ease in your presence. The frantic energy of their own minds is subtly calmed by the resonant field of your peace. From this first ripple of being, a second ripple is born: your communication. The words you speak, the questions you ask, the way you listen, all are now carried on this harmonic wave of inner calm. Your words are no longer contaminated by neediness or agenda. Your listening is no longer a preparation for rebuttal. Your silences are no longer awkward voids, but fertile spaces of connection. You have become the gardener, the alchemist, the unarmored communicator, not because you are trying to be, but because it is the only way a being who is at peace within themselves can communicate. Your communication is now a ripple of that peace. This second ripple then expands outward, and it becomes the third, the impact on others. When this wave of peaceful communication touches the shore of another person's being, it does not crash against their defenses. A gentle wave cannot break a seawall. It flows around it. It laps at the shore with a soft, persistent rhythm. Your non-judgmental presence invites their defenses to soften. Your vulnerable truth gives them permission to find their own. Your resonant listening allows them to hear themselves for the first time. You are not trying to change them. Your peace is simply creating a new environment around them, an environment in which they feel safe enough to change themselves. Finally, the ripples you have sent, out the ripples of your being and your communication travel to the farthest edges of the lake of your reality. And then, according to the immutable laws of energy and karma, they are reflected back to you. This is the final, closing arc of the circle. The peace you have generated internally and offered externally now returns to you as your lived outer experience. You find that your relationships are becoming more harmonious. You attract people who resonate with your new frequency of authenticity and calm. Your environment begins to mirror the peace of your own inner temple. The outer world, which once seemed like a chaotic and threatening place, now reveals itself to be a perfect reflection of the harmony you have cultivated within. This is not a reward, it is a resonance. Your inner peace creates your outer harmony, and that outer harmony then deepens and reinforces your inner peace. The circle is complete. It is a self-sustaining sphere of grace. You may look at the turmoil of the world and feel that your single, quiet circle of influence is too small to matter. This is the last whisper of the ego's story of separation. But the lake is one interconnected body of water. A single point of coherent stillness can, over time, have an effect on the entire system. One candle, lit in a vast, dark room, does not fight the darkness. It simply shines. And in its shining, it makes it possible for other candles to be lit. Your task is not to save the world. That is the grandiose ambition of the ego. Your task is far more humble and far more powerful. It is to take radical, unwavering responsibility for your own inner state. It is to be the keeper of your own inner peace. It is to do the sacred work of allowing yourself to be the still, silent stone at the bottom of the lake, and to trust, with every fiber of your being, that the ripples emanating from your stillness are your greatest gift, your most profound influence, and your ultimate purpose. The journey we have traced, from the noisy surface to the silent depths and back out again as a ripple of harmony, is the eternal, circular path of awakening. It is the hero's journey, not of slaying outer dragons, but of befriending the inner ones. And now, having walked the full circumference of this map, all that is left is to let it all dissolve, to let the words, the concepts, and the metaphors fall away, leaving only the simple, living truth of your own presence, here and now, in the endless, creative silence from which it all began. We have traveled far together, through 20 distinct landscapes of the inner world. We have given names to the formless. We have created metaphors for the ineffable. But now, at the end of our journey, it is time to let it all go. The concepts, the steps, the very words of this audiobook, they were just fingers pointing at the moon. They are not the moon itself. The map is not the territory. The true destination was never a new understanding, but a familiar state of being. This journey was not about learning a new language. It was about remembering your native tongue, a language you have known since before the beginning of time. It is the language of the soul. This language has no words, yet it is understood by everything that lives. Its grammar is simple. Speak from silence. Allow your words to be not the frantic noise of the mind, but the resonant emanations of the deep, still well within you. Let each word be a pearl, formed in the quiet oyster of your presence. Listen with your soul. Hear what is not being said. Feel the energy, the frequency, the emotion that is the true message behind the facade of words. Become a resonant tuning fork for the truth of another's heart. And finally, know this as the ultimate truth of all communication. Your presence is your message. More than your carefully chosen words, more than your brilliant insights, the vibrational frequency of who you are in any given moment is your loudest and most honest broadcast. Your peace is your power. Your love is your most eloquent argument. Your authenticity is your most profound influence. There is nothing more you need to learn. There is only this to practice, to embody, to become. The conversation continues within you.